It's Friday, September 1st, 2023. Let's do our show segment up front, and then I have a couple of small show notes. First off, wait, Lando, talk.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, no, just for a minute. 'Cause for a minute, I heard a hissing sound, and I thought your volume had shot through the roof. So I just wanted to make sure we didn't suddenly have an audio issue. That's all, because Skype updated right before we started, so I'm always like, SpaghettiOs. But anyway.
Yeah, I was drinking water right then. I thought you were accusing me of nodding off or something like that. We
No,
just started.
No.
I'm here.
Well, I heard that noise, and then I was like, oh, no, we're fine, because that noise is at normal volume. I just heard this weird spike in a hiss noise, so I was just making sure. Anyway.
What a lovely way to begin the show.
Hey, as long as everything's working, that's, all I care about is that the things are working the way they're supposed to.
All systems go, Michael.
So, let's do our show segment. Patreon.com/Ozone Nightmare is where you can go to support the show on that platform. If you go to the show homepage, you will see an array of, I suppose you would call them rounded squares on the right side of the page. Each of those will have different links. The one that has the PayPal logo lets you support through PayPal. The one that looks like a little book with a bookmark will take you to Lando's Amazon author page. There's one that looks like a skull that will take you, I believe, to my Linktree or my art site, one or the other, but you'll get to the same place one way or another. And there's one more. Isn't there one more? I don't remember.
I have no idea.
There's more. It doesn't matter. The one other thing is the code Libsyn. I said I've gotten confirmation it still works. So there is that. And so ends the shill segment as far as I know. I got a couple of little funny notes. I had a different person tell me that they like the clips of the movies now, so that's great. So I will continue doing that. So nobody has reported annoyance at it, so that's fantastic. I really didn't know how that would go over. In fact, this person makes music and said, if I hear a clip that I like, I'll let you know so you can send it to me. And I'm like, I'm happy to send it to you. No problem. And what was the other show note? There was something else. Wasn't there something else? Oh, there is a new late night that will be out on today's the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. The 4th. So Monday the 4th will be the Dr. Doug episode. So look forward to that. And I think I said this last time, but you can pre-order, which I already have, his album Music for Billionaires, which is an experimental ambient album that is coming out, I think, in a week or two. Something like that. So, yeah. And there is the show segment over with. I think that's all I had.
Yay.
Yay. Yeah.
I had one of those weird moments that you had the other day. You know how you watched that movie series? Was it the 4 movies or the trilogy? What was it?
Oh, yes, the Apocalypse
Polish movies.
tetralogy. Yes.
All right, 3 of them, right?
4.
Four. Yeah, go 4. Yeah. So you watched this one, and we were talking about how it's really great that you got to this point in your life, and yet there was still something amazing that you discovered that you were like, holy shit.
Yeah,
I had something like that happen to me recently. I just wanted to bring it up because it's an art thing, and I always like to bring art into the mix.
Ooh, art things.
I love art things. Yeah. So there is an artist named Jean-Léon Gérôme. Don't look him up yet, right? Because I want you to.
I would have to have you spell it anyway, so I can't.
I know.
I mean, I could guess, but it'd probably be
wrong. So I want you to wait till you look at him up because I want to describe what happened. So I'm still in the process of kind of building out my artist refuge, because most of my life I've always had my gym in my office, and now I have this little office above the garage that's kind of my own space. So I've been putting a lot of art on the wall, and I've been finding new places to put art on the wall, which means I keep looking for art. And I like to mix things between modern and like more classical art, right? I like, because it all occupies the space. And I saw this painting by happenstance. It popped up linked off of something else that I was looking for. And I was like, what the fuck is that? So now I want you to go into Google, and I want you to type in truth coming out of her well.
Oh, God. I could go so wrong. Truth coming out of her well. Okay. La vérité sortante più amie de son martinet pour château la humanité is a 1980.
Yeah.
Wow, switches to English.
Truth coming from her...
That's the whole...
Yeah.
Oh,
truth coming from the well, armed with her whip to chastise mankind.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Now look at that painting.
She looks very angry.
Yes, right? It's kind of haunting, isn't it? Okay, so...
You know what?
Yeah?
Actually, what it looks like is that she got kicked in the crotch as she was coming over the well.
Okay, so the idea of this, right, is the artist, the artist who created this is from the late 1800s.
Wow, he did 4 paintings this way?
Yes, he did 4 variations. Not this. They look different.
No, but the same idea.
The idea is based around an aphorism from the philosopher Democritus, which was, "Of truth we know nothing, for truth is in a well." Right? In reality, we know nothing, for the truth is in an abyss. And then basically the naked truth is represented by the woman. She's naked. She's vulnerable. Right?
I like the fact that this painting has its own Wikipedia site just for this painting with a whole bunch of
yeah. So the guy who painted this, his name is Jean-Léon Gérôme. You can see the link there, so if you want to find him. So I saw this painting and I'm like, who is this guy? I was like, I've never seen this before. Wow. And I started down a rabbit hole. This guy, in the time period that he was painting, was one of the most famous artists alive, right? But since then, he has basically fallen into, like, people just don't really pay attention to his stuff because I don't know why, honestly, but I realized I have known about this guy my whole life because he also painted the famous painting Pygmalion and Galatea. Do you know that painting where the statue's coming to life and it's kissing and it's embracing and kissing the sculptor?
I think I know the one. I'm looking up now to see if it's the one I'm thinking of.
Pygmalion and Galatea, 1890.
Hold on. Go ahead. Go on. I'm gonna.
Oh yeah, no. So that painting was hanging in my house. My parents had it. Well, my mother had it, and I grew up with that painting. Never knew who painted it, and it's like this iconic image in my mind. I've known that since I was a kid. Never knew who this guy was. Right then, another one of his paintings was used by Michael Moorcock for the cover of his book. Is it his book or is it Alan Moore's book? I think it's Alan. It's one of those two.
Oh, yes, I know this painting. Sure.
Yes, right.
The reason I know it, by the way, is not for anything except for the 2 heads on the wall. I remember seeing those heads in an art class and being like, that is fucking warped. So everybody's like, oh, wow, she's beautiful. Look at that alabaster. I'm like, look at the heads. The heads.
Yeah. So I can't remember. It was either Moorcock or Moore used one of his paintings for their book about writing. And I always remember the image. And the painting, what is it? The painting is called, was it, I gotta find it now. Either way, it's...
I'm trying to look it up, so keep going. I'm gonna find it.
Yeah, either way, yeah. So then I was like, oh, you know what? Like, I'm curious about this guy. And yeah, he was this humongously well-known artist in his time period. And yet, I don't know anybody that knows this guy. I think everybody has encountered one of his paintings at some point.
Well, I was going to say, I would never have been able to tell you his name.
But yeah.
I know that painting because of the heads.
So,
I remember the heads.
Yeah, so I went looking for his art. And, the painting, by the way, that was used is called The Duel After the Masquerade. That was used by the cover for this book about writing. But I started looking through this guy's his art, and his art is amazing. His colors are amazing. He did a lot of Middle Eastern stuff, which is incredible. Yeah. And then I found what may be one of the more, two actually, of the more haunting paintings I have ever seen in my life. Right?
Yeah.
So type in "Sale of Slaves in Cairo" and just write Jerome at the end.
Hold on. Let's find it here. I'm just going to look because this page has all of his works.
Yeah.
So,
It's
Sale of
1871.
Slaves. Hold on. Sale of slaves at what? Jerome?
In Cairo. In Cairo.
Oh, Cairo.
And the artist's last name is Jerome. So Gerome.
Okay.
I was utterly haunted by this painting.
Oh, I guess I should have put painting. That's why I'm not getting the right links.
Oh,
I'm just getting all these. What do you call it?
References to it.
Yeah, and let me put Jerome because I guess a lot of people have done this. All right, here we go. Hold on, images.
You see, it's the woman in front of the like a market area.
Is this where all the people are there and it's like a wooden thing?
No, there's was it?
Oh, I got it.
Women,
I think I got it.
And they're sitting in front of like a storefront.
Hold on, everybody. I hate when they do this bait and switch crap.
You want me to send you a link?
Yeah, send it to me because all these things are resolving into articles.
Nope, that's fine. I'll send it to you.
A
lot of his stuff.
Wait.
You found it?
It's the women, and then there's a guy in a window, and one of the women is nude with long. Okay, yes, I found it.
Okay,
right
so
you were send it to me.
Yeah. So a lot of his work, by the way, is on Wiki Commons. So if you go to Wiki Commons and you type in Jerome, a lot of his art will come up, and there's very good scans of it.
Holy crap! Somebody is selling this on a change purse.
What?
A product.
What?
That's how I found it. Yeah. See, this is. Yeah. I'll set here.
This is, to me, one of the more depressingly haunting paintings I have seen.
You can buy it on a zip pouch. Congratulations. You are welcome.
But
are you kidding? Of course.
It's awful.
Well,
and
would never sell
there's
that
another
pouch.
one where it's a slave in a market and the men are checking her teeth like a horse.
Oh yeah, I just saw that one too.
And it's like so, and he painted these as like a statement. And I said to my wife, it's like it's awful because it is an exceptionally well done painting, right? But I cannot call it beautiful because it is horrifying. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But I didn't know there was still art out there that could do this to me, and I didn't know that this guy was out there, and this guy's been out there on the periphery of my life the whole time, and I just suddenly discovered all his work, and I was just mesmerized by his stuff. His colors are amazing, and he switches around too. He's got a lot of Greek stuff he did. He's got a lot of Middle Eastern stuff. He's got gladiators that are fucking brutal. Let me see if I can find the one that
some
actually.
Of these where he's got the rugs and the people admiring the rugs.
Yes, incredible, right?
Yeah.
There was one that my look
up.
Oh,
the prayer one is really good.
Yes, prayer in the mosque.
Man, I guess it doesn't have the name. Prayer in Cairo, 1865. It's on a roof or something.
Now, if you go to, there's a painting he did in the 1890s called.
Yes, prayer in the mosque. I just found that with the arches. Yeah, that's
huge.
Great.
Yeah. There's one called Working in Marble, or the Artist Sculpting Tanagra. It's he painted himself. Basically building a sculpture, because he was also a sculptor, in his studio. And in the studio, there are references to all his other paintings.
Oh, I see him. Yeah. He trained his own painting. Oh, there's a head in that one, too. Yay.
There's the heads. And look, in the background is the painting of Pygmalion and Galatea.
I see it.
On,
look at
on the wall. Right. How meta is that?
Yeah, sure.
So, yeah, this guy's work just, it baffled me. The color and the skill, and I'm just sitting there going, why have I never heard of this guy before? Why is his
wow?
It's just
well, we've talked about how many artists there are.
There's so many. I know, but he was in his life one of the more that's we always say who will be the big name of tomorrow.
Well,
right?
I was just about to say though, but
think about it. In Van Gogh's,
because in your day.
No, I know, but in Van Gogh's life, he was nobody. And now he is this iconic painter,
but the reverse
right?
happens all the time. It happens now.
Exactly. This guy, in his life, was humongously popular. His paintings sold in that time, while he was alive, for massive amounts of money. And yet today, I hadn't even heard of him.
Yeah.
And everyone I've talked to about this guy, they're like, I've never heard of this guy. And then I'll show them a painting or two, and they'll be like, "Oh, I've seen this somewhere." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's so strange. It's like the reverse of a Van Gogh, somebody who was humongously famous and they disappeared." And you're just kind of like, "Why? Why did this?"
Well, I mean, it's
You know?
the same thing that go to an average. I don't know. I'm trying to think. There's probably actors who were huge in the 30s, like that could walk down a street and command presidents to drop and go, "Oh, please."
Oh
sign my
yeah.
thing."
Well,
And now you don't know. They're gone.
who's the cowboy who had the really big hat? Oh God, that he get like Churchill came to the U.S. to meet him. What's his name?
God, what is that guy's name?
Yeah. Hold on.
Churchill meets cowboy.
Because he had this massive hat.
Wait, Winston Churchill. I just saw it.
Yeah.
Damn it! It just showed it. How did it was just there. It just had a General. No, it's General Bernard, different guy. Churchill meets Boomer Monkey. Boomer was his name. Boomer Monkey.
His name was not Boomer Monkey.
All right, I was gonna say. Well, I don't know. That does sound like a cowboy's name. I mean, I was. Oh there, Churchill. I'm Boomer Monkey, and I run this here rodeo. Churchill meets cowboy. Cowboy Kenny Churchill. No, I don't think it's him.
What was his name? Yeah, I can't remember his name, but he was huge in his time period.
I see. I don't know.
He had this giant cowboy hat that he wore.
You know why? All these things are referring to the Churchill Downs, not Winston Churchill. And I just typed Winston. Winston Churchill. Man, Calgary Cowboy. Wait a minute, Calgary Cowboy hat. Hold on, this probably has it.
What's his name?
Let me look. Okay, the guy's name, David Gainsborough Robert. No, that's the collector.
No.
Hold on, it's got to be in here because this is about this. Bids on his off-white Stetson. Let's see. Before he became British conservative, picture many hats. The Biltmore Caribou Trail model Stetson. Other famous owners. No, I guess it doesn't. I don't know. Somebody.
Yeah, that's what I mean. We can't even find his name.
That's what I'm saying. So who cares?
But I think I just did.
Good. What is he?
Did I just find him?
Yeah.
No, Billy Cody, Ben Johnson, Audie Murphy. Shit. Yeah, and I can't believe we can't even find his name.
Can't find it.
Yeah, he did a lot of silent movies. Oh shit! Yeah, I can't believe that we can't even find his name. And that's a great example of how things just seem to.
Yeah.
Because we can't even find this guy's name, and yet this guy, I'm telling you, he was so famous that Winston Churchill came to the U.S. to meet him.
I can't find
anything.
Yeah.
Hold on. Maybe I need to go back to the 1930s.
I mean, I'm looking. Oh, you know what? Let me try this. Let me go to Winston Churchill's thing and look for cowboy. Nope, nothing. Nothing. Cover story. Winston Churchill. Nope.
I'm gonna keep looking for this as the show goes on.
You keep looking. Anyway,
but anyway, yeah. So I can't. I just couldn't believe I'd never heard of this guy. Like his name had never just really popped up, and that his art is really amazing. I mean, even if you're not an art nut, just experiencing these as almost like photographs of time. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
Oh, the one that made my wife laugh. There's a painting of his called "The Christian Martyr's Last Prayer." Did you see that one?
I'm looking through.
It's
yes, I see it.
It's 1883.
Yeah.
It's a painting of a lion in the Colosseum in the foreground, and in the background there is a group of Christians huddling and praying. Yes,
they would have,
as they would, right? Because and apparently that was this thing. Like he liked to paint moments that were kind of different from other people's. So like it was always the moment after or the moment before something rather than the thing itself. So like I guess at one point he painted the firing the essentially the execution of like a leader from the French Revolution, and apparently this guy was a type of personality that he was found guilty, and he told them when to fire. He did the whole fire now to the firing squad, right? Big personality. But the way that Jerome paints him, it's after he's already been shot, and he's laying face down in the ground, and there's the bullet holes behind him, and there's firing squads walking away, and it's like he shows you kind of this very cold reality. Like he totally strips the grandeur of the city. It was like, oh, he went to, he decided when he was going to die, and just shows you kind of the after effect of it. So yeah, I have fallen in love with this painter, and I wanted to kind of bring him to the table because I think there might be other people out there who really like his shit. I mean, I know that I'm gonna see if I can get a few of his works on my wall. Although I gotta tell you, my wife was like, "Are you gonna get one of the ones from the slave market?" And I was like, "Fuck no!" And she's like, "Yeah, but you said they were amazing." And I'm like, "I did say they were amazing,
but you don't want to have it on your
I
thing,
can't
on your wall.
look at that on a regular basis."
Yeah, that's horrific.
It is, right? He has this one. Oh, he's got this one painting. It's called Jerome. I think it's called The Poet. Is that it? Yeah. So if you go to Google and type in "The Black Poet 1888" by Jerome.
Okay.
Right.
Yep.
I found a really good copy of this, and I printed it out on like an 8.5 by 11 on a metallic photo paper. Which, by the way, I've fallen in love with metallic photo paper.
Yeah, it's nice.
The eyes on this poet are so expressive and so like piercing that it's almost hard to look at them. Like, it's one thing when you kind of look at it small, but when you look at them big, like, I have not seen someone do like such. I haven't seen eyes like that in a while. Do you know?
No,
Like,
it's pretty good. Yeah.
it almost crosses the uncanny valley.
Yeah, usually eyes are one of the places where you see that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's so I was just really impressed, and I wanted to bring this guy to the attention of the mob. And then switch gears completely to something not classical. Well, I guess it's classical Star Trek. So and a bit last night was movie night with the family, and there was a bit of a kerfuffle because my daughter wanted to watch the new Haunted Mansion movie, and my son wanted to watch Back to the Future. And they had a big fight about it, and I was like, fine. I was like, as punishment. No. I was just, if they can't decide, I pick something completely non sequitur.
Got it.
So I was like, fine, we're watching Star Trek Into Darkness.
Oh, God. Oh, man. You were Father of the Year in reverse. Oh, grief.
So here's the thing. We watched the first Star Trek, right? And we watched the second one, right? I mean, the third, the last one, Star Trek Beyond.
Yeah.
And I was kind of curious how they were going to handle this one, because they don't know Khan. They don't know Wrath of Khan. They don't know any of this. So I was actually, in a weird way, it was almost like, it was almost like a weird experiment for me to watch how they react to it, right?
Sure.
And also because I haven't seen it in a while, and I was kind of like, am I still gonna hate it, right? So the first thing that popped up,
one great moment doesn't make up for the rest.
Well, the one thing that popped up right away in that movie is, why does Starfleet look so Nazi? Like, whenever they're out of their like normal like ship uniforms, God, they are all dressed like Nazis. They all these like dark uniforms with like the little hats. Like, I don't know any other Star Trek movie where Starfleet looks quite so.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you on that.
And I don't know if that was an attempt to them to say, well, we're showing the way that Starfleet is getting more militarized, right? Because the whole idea was this was supposed to be Starfleet saying, no, this is not the direction we're going, right?
I guess that could be it. That does make some sense, at least, I guess. Yeah.
Although Peter Weller's uniform is fucking cool. That's another thing I noticed. I didn't really notice the last time I watched it. That the uniforms on his ship are actually quite neat. But I think
his ship is awesome too.
That's his
thing.
Yeah, my when that ship. All right, so the reason I show this to my kids, right? When Peter Weller's ship shows up in hyperspace and starts firing at the Enterprise.
Yeah.
My son
Yeah.
just about jumped out of his fucking seat.
That's my favorite thing in the whole movie.
And when the ship gets flung sideways out of hyperspace,
Yeah, man.
my son was like, they're all dead.
Yeah.
Right? But that moment where Cumberbatch is like, my name is Khan. My kids were like, okay. And? Yeah, like, what's going on?
Congratulations. That's a great name. And?
Yeah. And I realized there's some things I hadn't thought about before. Simple fixes that would have made this movie better. One thing that would have made this movie better, and I wanted to bring it to you, but it's part of the reason I'm talking about it, is that the whole Wrath of Khan thing is terrible, right? But I did have one thing that I thought about while watching this again, and I thought, man, if they'd done this, it would have made this movie better for me. Which is, so you know, Spock calls old Spock and says, "Hey, have you ever heard of Khan?" Right? And Spock's like, and Spock in the movie is like, well, you know, I told you I was going to tell you about the future because I don't want to fuck things up and blah blah blah. And then he's like, but, and then he tells him about Khan. If old Spock had told young Spock, we stopped him, and it killed me, and told him how he died, that basically he went into the reactor to save the ship, and that it killed him, right?
Yeah.
And then young Spock, knowing that it was going to kill him, still did it all again because he knew that he couldn't let his ship down, right? Yeah. That would have made that movie so much better for me, because instead they did the weird flip, and then Kirk has this weird awkward death sequence, but they bring him back right away. Whereas if Spock had knowingly gone into the reactor 100% sure he was going to die, but did it anyway, I was like, oh, that would have made this movie a lot better. Even if they'd brought him back, right? Sure. Even if they'd done the whole thing with chasing Cumberbatch down and having, you know, the fight on the ships, which is ridiculous. Magic blood. Oh. Yeah, it still would have made the movie better than what it was. What is your opinion on that?
Would it have made it better than it was? Yes. Does it make it any good?
No. But I did have another weird.
Sure. There's about
a million things. I know.
That would make it a little better, or just if you want to satisfy the question, would that make it any better? Any is the big word. Sure, I could come up with a bunch of things that would make it any better.
But here's the other thing I realized too, watching it. It doesn't feel like a Trek movie.
No, because no.
Like I've been watching a lot of.
Okay. To us, it doesn't. Now I don't know what your kids would say.
No.
Because,
so
you know, go ahead.
I love Strange New Worlds. I'm watching a lot of Strange New Worlds. But I'm watching Picard at the same time, right?
Sure.
And here's the thing.
Boy, what a comparison.
I know, right? My biggest argument with Picard, honestly, is that they need to turn the fucking lights on. That's my biggest issue with that show. Is that it's so goddamn dark. Who builds starships like that? When did everyone go, hey, you know what? This ship would be cool, but can we turn off all the lights so it could be like really kind of goth in here? I hate that. The Titan is like the darkest fucking ship I've ever seen. The fucking Millennium Falcon is better lit than that ship, right?
Yeah, true.
I hate that. I don't understand why they have these. They've decided that, you know, because like Discovery, say what you will about the show, Discovery was very well lit. You could see what was going on, you know. And Enterprise, like in the show Enterprise, the Strange New Worlds, the Enterprise is beautiful, right? And in the movies, you know, the Calvinverse movies, this ship is very well lit. Right. I love that. That said, you know, Strange New Worlds and Enterprise are great shows, and they are both unequivocally Trek. They're different areas of Trek, but they are definitely Trek. I just watched the episode where Spock gets turned into a human. I know there were a lot of people who were irritated with that episode. You know what? That episode is fucking awesome. The backdoor commentary on racism in that episode is fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? But then I watch, was it Into Darkness? And I'm kind of like, I get the sense that somebody wanted there to be a huge message in this about essentially militarism, right? Because they bring in Section 30, was it Section 31? Yeah,
Section 31.
They bring in Section 31,
Always
and
a good
they talk about like war, and I'm like, okay, it's like all of this are interesting things you could have done with Star Trek, right? And I like the Calvinverse crew. I really enjoy Star Trek Beyond, and I love this first one they did. But there's such a Michael Bay about this movie. Like, it's so Michael Bay. Where, like, you know, it's not just that they needed to have action. They wanted to turn Star Trek into this, like, over-the-top action movie. You know what I mean? Like, there are just action beats everywhere. I'm surprised a giant spider didn't show up at some point. It's like that level of absurdity. And what's weird, and maybe you won't agree with me, is despite all that, I still like Trek. Like, don't be wrong, Into Darkness is probably at the bottom of my list of Star Trek things to watch, but it is still Trek. And I would still choose to watch Into Darkness over a lot of things that aren't Trek because I like the Trek universe, right? I acknowledge that it's not great, and I acknowledge that it is, like, there's a lot of things you could do better, and yet it is worth watching for those few, like, especially for, like, my kids who haven't seen it. It's worth watching because now my son has walked away with Peter Weller's ship somewhere in the back of his head, right? And that's going to go through his blender and come out the other end. And, like, who knows? Maybe one day he'll grow up and he'll write for Star Trek. And he'll find a way to take that ship and make a cool version of it, right? And I know you're going to say something like, yeah, a few cool moments doesn't make the movie worth it. No, I'm not saying it's a good movie. I've seen it again. It's still a bad movie. But there's cool stuff in that movie. And I do think it's worth watching at least once. Like, I don't feel bad having had my kids watch it. But especially since I can't show them a classic Trek because classic Trek is too slow for them still. I can't get my kids to watch Wrath of Khan, even though I think Wrath of Khan is the best Star Trek movie. You know? So, yeah, I just kind of wanted to roll that by you and kind of get your feelings on that idea that, you know, there still are, you know, it's still worth watching in the canon of Trek. You know, there's people that are like, oh, don't even bother. There's people like, you know, don't watch Voyager. Voyager is shit. And you're like, it is, but 7 and 9 is a great piece of Picard, and she comes from Voyager. You know, Voyager has its good moments.
Yeah, I don't agree, but I'll be more specific than simply saying that. Whereas with somebody saying skip Voyager, I would disagree with that because Voyager has far more. I would tell people who let's take the Voyager example just as to comparison to Into Darkness. I would say to people, don't watch all of Voyager. Find a good curated list of, I don't know, 10 to 15 episodes that, because Voyager wisely does not have outside of you have to watch the first one, you have to watch the last one.
Okay.
Because that's how they get lost, that's how they get back. You have to have that.
Hold on. Can I roll something by you then real quick? Because you just kind of made me think of it. If I edited, right, so that the whole Khan thing was out of the movie, and this movie was basically the length of an episode of Star Trek, and all it was Admiral Weller, because I can't remember his name, Admiral Marcus, that was his name, Admiral Marcus trying to set up a Starfleet ship to start a war that he knew was inevitably coming anyway, right? And then them basically taking his ship out was the whole, you know, I mean, what is that, a half hour episode?
The problem is you can't do away with one of the stupidest things in there that, to me, torpedoes the whole movie.
Okay.
Which is Kirk's magic blood.
Oh, you mean not Kirk?
So
not Kirk.
bad.
You mean Khan's magic blood?
Khan's magic blood.
Yeah, because because
so
they bring it back.
stupid that they erased it when they got to the next movie because it's just gone. Like nobody. They never mention it again because it's so titanically stupid.
Were they saying that it was supposed to stay in Kirk? I figured that Kirk's body was going to process it out. Was it supposed to stay there? Was that what they implied?
Well, they don't imply, so there's no reason.
That
to
he was
think
now
he's not magical.
Connish? Okay.
Well, I mean, why not? How
Yeah,
would you not
no.
come to that conclusion?
Yeah, that's
Right? Because
possible.
they never, unless somebody, if
Hey.
there's a specific moment, somebody can
Yeah.
tell us. Maybe somebody
Yeah,
knows.
but you see what I mean? This idea, like the biggest
Well-
problem that I think that the Pine Star Trek movies have is that they're next gen, right? I love the next gen show, but the next gen movies were a lot of them were weak, right? But I love the show, and like I feel almost like if Pine and Zachary Quinto had been allowed to have a show, it would have been a really good Star Trek show. But because you just got 3 movies,
Okay, so
Yeah.
here's I just reread because I wanted to make
Go
sure
ahead.
that we weren't missing something. Because I
Sure.
know you just watched it, but it could have been a throwaway line or something.
yeah.
So, yes, Khan's blood revives him. Khan is still alive in a pod, which means magic
he's
blood
frozen. Yeah.
is
Oh,
now
still
available.
accessible.
Yeah. To
Oh,
everybody.
yeah. You know
Yeah.
what? I didn't
Right.
think about that.
Yeah.
You're right.
So,
Yes,
so
you're-
the thing
you-
is,
you
there's
have
no death
to-
anymore. Death is over. Because what? Here's my reasoning. Why
Yeah.
would you not put an IV into him and just slowly take his blood out? Just start building a reservoir because you can remove his blood. Will keep, it'll replenish itself. If you
Yeah.
think Section 31 wouldn't decapitate him and keep his
not-
body running, I mean, would they not?
I'm
That's-
sorry.
you've-
No.
you know.
That is absolutely true. Section 31 would absolutely decapitate
Yeah.
him. And
So
keep
what?
him on
So
tap.
what that movie establishes? I'm sorry to say
Oh,
for anybody who likes
no.
it, I'm going to ruin it now for you.
No. You are that. But the thing is, what I'm trying to say to you is, right? Because you are 100% right. Is if you remove the con element of the movie, which I know
But
you're
you
saying you
can't.
can't. But I'm saying if you just remove that aspect of it, and we're just talking about the idea of Weller as an admiral who's trying to send the Starfleet to war because he thinks that's what's going to happen anyway. Like if you just watch that 20 minutes of the movie, it's worth watching.
Okay, sure. Yeah, watch 20 minutes of a movie that will have not enough setup and big missing
No,
chunks.
no, but it's
know.
it's an astoundingly like just that image of
Well, I don't-
the
yes, but that's-
vengeance
okay.
coming in through. Yeah,
But that
I'm not
is
listening.
not enough
I'm not
to say
making.
watch.
I'm
the
not
movie.
making the argument that it's a good movie. I'm just
'Cause-
saying that I don't
'cause-
think you should not see it
Yeah.
altogether.
Because the subtitle should be of that movie, the Kelvin Terran Empire, because that's what you've just established is the Terran Empire. Because of now that you have magic blood,
Yeah, a fourth movie. Hold on, a fourth movie. They should have a fourth movie where basically Kirk and Spock find out that they have decapitated Khan and they've basically made a super blood supply and they opt to destroy it.
well,
Wouldn't
yeah,
that be
because
great?
I mean, why
No, you're right.
wouldn't you?
That absolutely. You are. Yes, because the thing is, at the end of Wrath of Khan, Khan and all his people are destroyed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. They're all
But here's
dead.
actually, but hold on. But here's a
Yeah.
question then.
Sure.
Because in the
Also, by the way, in the original, no magic blood. But go on.
no, and that's what I was going to say. Khan didn't have magic blood in the normal universe, right?
I don't remember
Wasn't
there
it-
being any mention.
He was
in either the original
genetically
episode.
Yeah,
or
he
the
was
movie.
genetically superior, but he was genetically superior. It wasn't like
Correct.
it was something that could be because in Strange New Worlds, one of their people is a Khan, and she is genetically manipulated, but she doesn't have magic blood.
Yeah, I'm reading right here just to make sure. No, he is basically Captain America. He is at the height. No, he is. He is at the maximum.
Oh
of
no,
human
you're
potential.
talking about Khan in the classics.
The classic Khan. The classic
okay, he's
Khan,
Captain America. That makes total
is-
sense.
Yes, yes. It's Captain America.
Yeah.
The new Khan is Jesus. He is. I'm sorry, but it's Khan Noonien Jesus. That's what he
Yeah.
is, right? I mean,
and my wife is saying to me, she's like, you know what? She's like, oh, if they just made it not Khan, she's like, this would have been a better movie for her.
Yeah.
She's not a big Trekkie, so she was like, if it wasn't Khan, she would like, because she likes Wrath of Khan as well as a movie. So she's like, yeah, if it wasn't Khan, this would be better. Like you could have done all this, and I wouldn't give a shit, and just have it be somebody else. Just have it be George. George,
No,
and George
as it
has
is
a
now,
yeah.
You have now created a movie called Jesus Khan Superboom because that's what the movie is. You have a Christ-like enemy and a bunch of explosions. That's what the movie is. So
Yeah, and the thing is, his whole crew is like him. as well.
Right.
Like
So
that's
they
the
all
other
have
thing. They're
super blood.
all it was a team of Captain Americas.
And that's
Or
and
sorry,
that-
they're even. Well, what comes? What is a good power equivalent? What's above Captain America?
the Hulk.
Thor? Are they like Thor level?
No, it'd be the Hulk because the Hulk
Asgardians?
saved. I mean, no, Asgardians are gods. I mean, they can summon supernatural powers. The Hulk is, the Hulk, and his blood is magic because his
So
blood
Super Hulk. So
can
they're all
save
Super
people.
Hulks essentially. Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
there is no one-to-one equivalent, I guess. Maybe
No,
a
but no,
vampire,
and that's the thing is that there is so much Abrams writing in these movies. There's so much like kind of sloppy. Well, we don't really need to think about it in the long run. But you're right. I mean, like I hadn't thought about it, which is my own shortcomings. The fact that you're right. You're implying that Section 31 isn't going to sneak into the cold storage and grab any of the bodies. I don't even have to grab Khan, right? I mean, now they do make the implication. Well, they're only able to wake up one of us, right? But it's like right. But they still woke one of you up.
Yeah, well,
so
and that's today. That's not
yeah.
tomorrow.
I was like, so you're right. They will find a way, and they'll get themselves a bunch of Captain Americas.
Or even
right?
if you want to try to keep it as, I don't know, as surface level non-villainous as possible.
Yeah.
The fact that Khan's blood can do this means they will re-engineer more people. They will find some dedicated, super patriotic Federation soldier who will say, I will be a blood donor for the planet. Make me Khan. And he'll just be stuck on a cross with his arms out and IVs coming off him.
Yeah, and the counter argument is they'll say, well, the whole point is that Starfleet's better than this. And you're like, yeah, but the thing is,
no, it isn't.
Once you create Section 31, right? Which makes sense. I mean,
you don't even need Section 31. The idea that the Federation is better than that assumes that every human being in the Federation is created as an equally good person, which of course they're not. They're human beings.
No, because they find people all over the place who are doing bad things in the universe.
All you need is 10 people getting together going, you know what? I don't like this goody-goody utopia. It's boring. I want to live forever and cause chaos. I want to be Lobo. So let's just go be Lobos together. And they go and they get the blood. Because, I mean, come on. It's just nonsense. But that's what I'm saying is you can't save that movie. Whereas with Voyager, as their comparison point, you can save that series by simply cutting all the bad episodes out and finding the ones, the 10 to 15, that are excellent episodes.
I know, but this is the thing. If the Calvinverse, instead of making a movie, it had been like 3 seasons of a show, right? Whereas in each movie would be like a show.
Sure.
Right? Season 2 would be the Khan season. There would still be a few episodes of that season that you would want to watch, like, if the fight with Weller's ship had been a whole episode.
Yeah,
we'll say, right?
I suppose if you were putting it that way, but it's not that way, so we really can't phrase it that way.
I know it's not that way. I just don't think. I don't think you should skip it.
I think Trek did that. I think Trek has done that.
You should skip it entirely. I still think people should see it, just to see and take away the cool aspects of it that are there, while also accepting the fact that it is a bad Star Trek movie.
I will say without any hesitation, it is the worst Star Trek film that exists.
Oh,
it is by far the worst.
The worst?
Yes. I would watch any other Star Trek film before.
I'm rolling through my Rolodex.
Even because people will be like, "Wait, you're saying Final Frontier is better?" Yes.
Well, fuck you. All the classic Star Trek movies are worth watching.
Well, I agree.
For one reason,
people think
for one reason or another. Terrible. Yeah, they're all worth watching.
Yeah.
I love that crew. I don't care.
And the next gen ones are too. I mean, none of the next gen ones are as bad as this.
I'm iffy about the next gen ones.
Well, okay, so let's go.
No, hold on. Let's be clear though. I'm iffy about them. I don't acknowledge that they're bad. Whereas I acknowledge that Into Darkness is bad.
The closest to Into Darkness is Nemesis. Right? Ooh, Nemesis is pretty bad.
Yeah.
However, Nemesis still doesn't at any point do something that is so fundamentally destroying of common sense in terms of magic blood. For all the problems you can level at Nemesis, and you can level a lot. Mostly that it's boring. Let's be honest.
Yes.
Mostly that it's just
know
boring.
what? But what Nemesis has that actually, what Next Gen had, right? Now that Nemesis is directed by Frakes, right?
I I don't remember.
Is that one of his?
I don't know.
Or was
I know
he the producer?
I know he did. I know he did First Contact, which is largely regarded as.
Well,
no, he did not direct that.
All right, so
Stuart
the
Baird.
thing about the thing about this
so.
the next gen movies I found was that they were still trying to create stories within the larger context of that Star Trek universe, right? So if they had done something really radical, somebody would have been like, okay, listen, dude, we can't have this because we can't have this in the next gen universe. It makes no sense. Whereas with the Calvinverse, it was being done by very much. I mean, it's being done by very non-Star Trek people. The biggest fighter for Star Trek in that movie was Simon Pegg, because didn't he partially write the third one?
I think he entirely wrote the third one.
That's what I'm saying. Like, Simon Pegg was a huge Star Trek fan. And his response,
much better movie than Into Darkness is, without even
it is a way
debate.
better movie.
Yeah.
Yes,
but that's what I'm saying is.
So you're saying skip it. You're saying skip it entirely.
Look, everybody is free to do whatever they want. Now,
no, I know, but I'm saying in your curated
the two Star Trek movies I never watch when I rewatch are Nemesis and Into Darkness. I never watch those. Never. I literally, when I bought the set of the next gen movies,
so you
Nemesis
would tell people not to watch. Nemesis is the one with Tom Hardy, right?
Yeah, that's the last one where Data dies, and but even that one still feels like next gen. It's just boring next gen, and Insurrection is largely the same. Insurrection is pretty boring because they just redid one of their own episodes, so it's very familiar and it's boring. They redid an episode. And that's the biggest complaint that's leveled at the next gen movies is they were too much like the show because they seem too small scale.
Yeah,
except for
and
First Contact.
And the problem with the Kelvinverse movies is, like, especially what, the first one was them trying to just get people interested, and the time travel thing is really interesting.
That's by the way why Into Darkness is that way, is because they interpreted the success of Star Trek 09 as, oh, people want a Michael Bay version of Star Trek. They want it all action, and so they pumped it all the way up. As opposed to understanding that...
It's too much,
Yeah, 09 has a nice blend. I still like 09 a lot. Beyond is fine. I watch that occasionally, but that's like every 5 years. I'm like, I'll rewatch this. That's it. But
the thing is... I'll tell you what's really weird for me now is that when I first started watching Discovery and Spock showed up, I was like, I'm not too sure about this Spock. And now I've spent more time with the
his than Quinto,
than Quinto. So when Quinto pops up, I'm like, Quinto's okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're both good. They're both good.
They're all good. They're all good. But watching the episode when Spock becomes human is like such an interesting character study.
Oh yeah, that's great.
About what
Yeah. So in answer to your question, I would tell people to skip Nemesis and Into Darkness. I really don't. I don't feel that there is
even people who've never seen them. You'd say skip them. Don't see them.
Because I don't feel
don't
like...
even sully your mind.
Into Darkness is what, 2 hours? Isn't that like 2 hours long?
It is like 2 hours long.
Yeah, okay. So in that 2 hours, you're getting, as you said, 20 minutes of Trek? I'm sorry. It's 132 minutes.
Yeah, I don't know I don't know if it's just 20 minutes. There's a lot of interesting little moments.
I don't know that it's even 20 minutes. I'll go a bit further. I don't know that's even 20 minutes of total time.
But there is a lot of other shit in there. Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, like I said...
They kill Pike. They get rid of Weller. And then, what's funny is that they implied that Marcus was going to become part of the team, that she was like going to be part of the ship, and they dropped her right away.
Well, and therein lies another thing, is even the people running this franchise
We're like, this wasn't our best movie.
Right. So, I mean, if you're not even willing to bring up your failures and try to defend them, then why should anybody watch them? Because again...
But I will still watch another movie from the Calvinverse. Beyond was good. I enjoyed Beyond.
No.
And when I heard that Tarantino might make a Star Trek movie...
Yeah.
I was thrilled about that idea. I'd love to see what...
I have no problem with the Kelvinverse. I think Beyond is a fine film.
Yes, but I want Tarantino to fuck with the Kelvinverse because
sure,
there's no strings attached to that universe. You know what I mean? You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, I put Star Trek 09 is probably number 6 or 7 out of all the movies for me. It's fairly far up there because I think it's... I think when it's split off, it was such a wonderful way. I've said this many times. It was a great way to kind of put aside any criticism of oh, you destroyed the no, different characters. And I think it's perfectly fine as what it's trying to be, and I think it's a perfectly entertaining Star Trek film. It feels like Trek. The characters are fine. The villain is fine. They have old Spock, so it's got its connection. Like, all this stuff works.
Yeah.
So I don't have any issue with the Kelvinverse. I have an issue with Into Darkness. And I have an issue with Beyond either. Beyond, I don't know. Beyond doesn't really last for me, but it's nothing wrong with it. It's just kind of disposable. But you could say the same thing about Insurrection and certainly Nemesis.
Well, the interesting thing about Beyond is that so in the second movie, like, so Into Darkness is the whole thing about how basically that Kirk is too seat of the pants and Spock is too by the book, right? That's the whole thing behind it, right?
Classic thing.
Yeah, and then in Beyond, they're both thinking about leaving. Kirk is basically bored, and Spock feels like he should leave because old Spock died.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a whole kind of different message there. Like, you never really get to them in their prime in deep space. You know what I mean?
Yes,
and I think that's what I want.
I'm okay with that. Yes.
Well,
I wouldn't have minded it, but I don't mind it.
I would enjoy another movie where they're older and we've gotten through the whole, will they become the crew? Will they not become the crew? And it will be different because the actor who played Chekhov is dead, and they said that they wouldn't replace him. So you're going to get a different crew, and there's going to be a different dynamic. So I would watch another one. I'm kind of sad that they don't, because Chris Pine is pretty good. And
look, out of the 3 movies, 2 out of the 3 of them I think are very watchable to good. Therefore, I would watch another one because that's a plus 50% ratio. Fine with that.
So New Frontier, that's the one that everybody hates, right? Which one's that?
Which one?
I can't remember now. The one with Cybok is Undiscovered Country.
Final Frontier. That's 5.
Final Frontier. And then Final Frontier
Undiscovered Country is regarded as a wonderful ending.
I know,
but Cybok is Final Frontier 5. Yeah. And my thing there is, yes,
so wait, hold on. So people don't like Cybok?
No, it's not Cybok. The movie is not well made. It's not, because they basically from everything I've seen and read, it's sort of not a very surprising story. It's a combination of Shatner got too far up his own ass, plus, to be fair to him, they pulled half his budget. And so he wanted a grand ending with all kinds of, the movie's actual framework is perfectly good. Is great. I did a 5 where I argued 5 is one of the best Star Trek episodes that got made into a poor movie. That if this had been a 2-part show, it would have been far better than trying to make a movie, because the idea of going to, the Cybok wanting to find God, and I think they're going to try to do something with him. It seems like in Strange New Worlds, which,
because they are.
What? Honestly, I'd tell him do the same story, but do it better. Don't even bother trying to make it different. Do the whole thing where he's trying to find God again, because I think that's such a great concept. And the thing where Kirk realizes what it is, and then, like that, the thing, because you're talking about, okay, it's worth it. It's worth watching Into Darkness for these moments, right?
Yeah, because you and I differ in this respect, because the thing is, I collect moments, because when I write or when I produce art, sure, I'm calling on moments. I'm not calling on arcs. I'm calling on the moments. So there's a lot of stuff I see the same way you watch a bad movie and you're like, you know what? I was like, this movie could be good if they did this, that, and then you see these things that could have elevated the movie. I watch a movie like Into Darkness and I say, okay, this is not a good movie. I was like, but there's a few things in here that I actually really enjoy, and I'm going to keep those with me. It's just things like that. It's it's Attack of the Clones. Right, Attack of the Clones is not a great movie, but man, when Jango Fett drops that fucking sound bomb, no, it's not worth watching the whole movie for that, but it's still fucking awesome, and it stays with you. It stayed with us so much that they did it again in the Mandalorian. And it's like, there are these cool things, and if you're like me, where you're kind of like a cool moment collector, because it all kind of gets in the blender, for me, it's like, a movie like that is worth watching. because I take those moments with me.
So sure, for somebody like you, it's worth watching. But most people are not like you or me. And so I don't think there's enough in Into Darkness for most
you.
people.
Yeah.
For most people.
Yeah.
Because I love the vengeance part. But I literally will not watch the rest of the movie. I just skip to the vengeance part.
Yeah.
And like I said, the Peter Weller thing, it's fine, but it's a story I'm pretty sure Trek's done at least once before. So I would find out what that episode is. I'm sorry, I don't remember. And I think that's the conspiracy angle from Next Gen. And then I think they did it again in, I want to say Enterprise, where they did this idea
they said they were going to do a Section 31 show.
Well, now it's a movie because it's Michelle Yeoh, but whatever. Yeah, but what I'm saying is,
they switched it to a movie.
Yeah, I think because they know now they can't afford her for a series anymore, which is fine because now she's an Oscar. She's in an Oscar.
No,
movie,
I said to my wife, like, she won an Oscar. There goes the show.
I
want a Section 31 show.
I don't.
Well, here's my angle.
I don't think they can do it well.
I don't know if they could do it well either. I like the idea of trying to. The way I would do a Section 31 show is I would basically have it so the person who is the lead is somebody who's sitting there going, this is not a good organization, but I am trying to do good things with it.
Yeah.
And paint, because it's kind of like watching it's very much watching an espionage show, right? So like we just watched
Section 31 has to be a part of a show, not the show.
Not the show itself. Was it?
I don't know, but maybe
not Tom Clancy. It's
Sandbaggers. It's a Sandbaggers show.
Yes.
Burnside is doing terrible things in what he thinks is a good service and trying to make the best of a bad situation.
Well, God, what's the name of that show? It's the Tom Clancy show with Jack Ryan.
Oh, yeah.
Right, my brain kept going, Jack Burton. It's not Jack Burton. Jack Ryan.
It's not Jack Burton.
So the Jack Ryan show. My wife loves that show. She loves spy shows. We watch that. And, it's interesting because it's a big espionage show, right? And to some degree, Picard flirted with that because all the stuff with Worf is basically like an intelligence operative, right?
Sure.
And he's going around and he's trying to figure out who's running guns and who's got these weaponry, who stole this, and I would watch a whole show about Worf as the head of an espionage project, right? Actually, I would watch a show where Worf has to liaise with Section 31 on a big, intelligence situation, because it would be really interesting to see Section 31 go up against old Worf, because they went up against him. I think went up against him, but he dealt with them in Deep Space Nine. But it's a different Worf there. Picard Worf is not mature. He's more dangerous. But either way, the idea for me, a Section 31 show, when I think of the whole Jack Ryan show, I was like, I could see it, this idea that Section 31 is like the CIA, and the whole idea is you have a department that can very easily go south. But there's an argument that it's necessary in the background because there are some things Starfleet can't do. And it's all about making the right argument. It can't be this dark and gritty Trek. It's more so the idea of, it's Michelle Yeoh showing up and taking the guy and the baby from the Klingon Empress, and then basically them manufacturing a dead body and a dead head. Which honestly, did they just give her a dead body, like a dead baby? Because the other thing is, the Empress throws the dead baby and the decapitated head into the chasm, right? Did they just give her a dummy, or did they actually just give her a dead baby? Because this is Section 31. And can you use the replicators on the ship to make a dead body?
I don't know. I mean, I assume you can.
Right?
No, actually, there's probably some kind of. There's
it's
probably
not alive,
something,
right?
No, there's probably something that prevents you from making anything that can be considered a.
Jesus,
organic,
could you be I was gonna say, well, could you be a cannibal on a Starfleet ship?
No, I don't think you can.
Just be like, I just used the replicator to make dead bodies and eat them.
It's like synthomeat, I guess.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. You're just changing the shape of it. So, It's just, you know what? I'm going to use the phrase you use. It's just a glamour.
It is. Yeah.
Right? So,
Sure.
but yes, so, but Starfleet wouldn't do that. Section 31 would do that. And I was like, when I saw Michelle Yeoh and the way she handled things, I was like, okay, I understand what you're trying to do here and the argument you're trying to make. But like, yes, you are correct. It's a very slippery slope. And if you don't have extremely deft writers doing it, it could fall apart quickly. But I also don't want a whole show of Michelle Yeoh because I don't find her character to be as endearing as other people do.
That's why I'm not looking forward to it.
I like her as part of a crew, but the problem is she won an Oscar,
that's
so now
the
she's
Section
the lead.
31 problem.
Yeah,
blown up. I don't think it works. I don't think we're ever going to even get the movie. A lot of people have said that. I tend to agree. I think it's just gonna get canceled.
See, I would love a crew. I would love a Section 31 show about a crew of lovable bastards.
I think at this point, what they have seen is that people are not responding to the dark side of Trek very well. They're ending Discovery. The last season of Picard, which was the more kind of throwback and happier one, is the one people like.
Yes,
Strange New Worlds has taken off. Lower Decks has taken off. That's the fun side.
Yeah, man, I never would have thought that Lower Decks would take off so well.
It's a fun show. It's
very fun. And the fact they did a crossover like that.
And it worked very well.
Utterly baffles me.
Yep. But that's what I'm saying is I think the message has gotten across that people don't want any more of that. They don't want more Star Trek Into Darkness. They literally don't want that. They want the fun adventure Trek for a while now.
Yeah, and that's what
post-pandemic and everything else. People are like, I'm sick of it. Just get jettison this shit.
This is the whole what's his name? Gunn is taking over DC. Gunn doesn't want to do gritty. Because here's the thing. Listen, Guardians 3 has very dark elements in it, but I don't consider it to be a dark movie because the overall message of that movie is about enduring and moving on with your life and having hope. Right? Like, after watching Guardians 3, I have a lot more hope for what he may do with DC if they let him. Do you know what I mean? Like, now, granted, I never saw his version of what do you call it? I almost called them the Inglourious Bastards. What the fuck?
Oh, the Suicide Squad?
I never saw his Suicide
I like that.
Squad.
I thought it was good.
Right? But like, having
funny.
seen Guardians 3, I'm like, you know what? I want to see what James Gunn does with DC World. Because, it's okay to do things that are a little dark, but as long as you can maintain a sense of, fun. I mean, like, Guardians still had a ton of fun to it. There's a psychic dog that kicks ass in that movie. You know what I mean? Like,
well, it's like you said, we'll see what he's allowed to do. Saying you're running something doesn't mean you're running something. So
because, I was, so I encountered a strange bit of information that I didn't have before. And this won't really be a big thing for you, but it's more so the discussion of how money and politics can kind of affect a show. So I didn't know that Joss Whedon hated the character who plays Spike on Buffy, right? So that actor who then went on to be was it Harkness's boyfriend in Torchwood, which is like probably one of his greatest roles because he did the whole Adam Ant thing with him. But anyway. So I didn't know that Joss Whedon hated that character, which was very popular. And that the studio basically said, no, people are responding, keep him in the show. And Joss Whedon was a huge asshole to him, right? But people liked the character, so the studio was like, we want more Spike. So when the show ended, they killed Spike, right? That's one of the things that happened at the end of the show, of Buffy. Angel was still going. And apparently, at the end of season 4 was coming to an end, and they told Joss Whedon, hey, we're canceling Angel. And Whedon was apparently like, shit, is there anything I can do that would get you guys to give me another season? And they were like, nah, not really. And he was like, what if I bring Spike back? And they were like, really? And he was like, yeah. And apparently they let him have a 5th season because he agreed to bring the character of Spike back. But they didn't give him more money. So the whole idea was that he then had to rearrange his budget to budget for this named actor to be in the show. And in doing so, he was forced to remove. There was an actress who'd been part of the show. She was part of the show for the first 3 seasons. She was part of Buffy, and then she got written out because I think there was something in there, but she got pregnant, and Joss Whedon told her. Joss Whedon was like, "Don't get pregnant." And she got pregnant, so he turned her into the villain.
I told you not to be a fatty. Get out.
Yes, yeah. Well, the more you find out about Joss Whedon and his aggressiveness,
it's not great.
But the fact that basically they brought Spike back, which I thought was quite funny. I mean, like the character has good comic timing. They brought him back, and they were forced to not bring the other woman back, which changed the entire like direction of the season. And it kind of like, it's so fascinating how it's these outer dimensional elements that then change the course of the story. You know, where you're sitting there going, well, why didn't they do this? And you're like, because they didn't have the money. They didn't have the money. The actor didn't want to come back. You know, it's like it's amusing. It's like, why has Eccleston never been on any of the multiple Doctor Who shows? I mean, when they did the one with John Hurt was supposed to be Eccleston.
Well, that was supposed to be because Eccleston said, "I'm not coming back." Period.
Fuck you. Exactly. Right. Yeah. So it's so fascinating to me. You know, we're just saying here with Gunn, it's like it'll be interesting to see what the studio lets him do. Sure. It's always so fascinating how it's like you've got the art and then you've got the money and the politics and and the business aspect and how it filters out the art. And sometimes we get stuff that's better and sometimes we just get shit.
Yeah.
You know, that same system will give you, you know, Strange New Worlds, which is an incredible trek, and that same system will give you Into Darkness. You know, so it's it's sometimes it's as fascinating to read about how a show was made,
sure, of course,
as to watch a show, which I didn't used to feel that way.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But anyway. Yeah, that's me. That's all I got for you.
Well, here's something interesting. I watched 2 movies. One is going to be a much shorter review than the other, because the funny part about the first movie I'm going to talk about is I already reviewed it 8 years ago, but I checked, and as far as I can tell, we never talked about it in review form in the show, because from listening to that 5 that I did in 2015, I had said that I had been sick and I had watched a whole bunch of movies, and I listened to the shows immediately after, and I mean, one of them we were getting into some existential thing about how you can be a person or not. It was I couldn't even follow what the hell we were talking about at one point. But anyway, that's not atypical. But I honestly, I was also skimming through. I didn't listen to the whole thing. But I'm like, what the hell are we saying?
The fact that the weird.
It was a hell of a thing.
It got so weird that
the show notes,
you went back in time and listened to it and were like, this doesn't make any sense. What the hell are you talking about?
It had to do with Iron Man somehow. I don't remember. It was some weird thing. In any event, but I never saw the movie come up in the show notes, so I have a feeling we never talked about it. And probably some of that is because when I watched it, and I said this in the 5, I was watching a bad copy of it. But because I started rewatching this movie because I got a nice new Blu-ray of it, and I was watching it again. And I'm like, man, I think I've watched this movie, but not in this beautiful of a version. And the movie I'm talking about is called Liquid Sky from 1983. Now, I've mentioned the movie a bunch of times, but I'm pretty sure, 1982 or 3. I thought it said 3.
82.
Okay, yeah, it says 82. All right, so 82.
Oh,
because I think this,
This looks...
it was the most successful independent film of 1983. That's why I was getting it mixed up. Okay.
It was the most what?
Successful independent film of 1983.
Really?
Yes, which is psychotic when you watch it. But I mean, you know what? It's so 80s that it makes sense. I mean, it is the very definition of art house pretension mixed with the most 80s looking everything possible. I mean, top to bottom. If you hate the 80s, your eyes will fall out of your head 5 minutes into the movie. So don't even bother.
The blonde woman looks like a Gozer skunk.
Well, here's what's funny.
Yeah.
I I watched the movie before I listened to the 5 because I didn't want to taint
Yeah.
my thoughts because I'm like, boy, things can change in 8 years. Let me just see what I think of this. And I
Hold on. Is she a fashion model?
yes.
Or is that just the way everybody's dressed?
No, it is
Okay.
yes to both. It doesn't matter. It's the same. Yes. The answer to is yes no matter what you're saying.
Yeah.
Everybody in there looks like that, and she is a fashion model, sort of. It's not really clear what any of these people are as far as their professions. But I watched the movie and I re-listened to my 5. And what's funny is I had accidentally bumped the thing on the 5 and it jumped to the middle. And I heard myself say, oh, it's awful. And I went, really? I hated this? Because I love it now. And then I went back and re-listened to it. And actually, I was talking about one particular thing. I actually liked it back then, too. So that's fine. Because I was like, wow, I'm disagreeing with myself. This is real time travel type shit. But it's not. I liked it back then. So the whole essence of the film, there's almost nothing happens. That's why I'm saying this is the height of art house pretension. But it is about aliens that come to Earth, and they initially are looking for the brain reaction to opiates, but find that orgasms produce better results. And so they kill people when they have orgasms. Right? Now, but it's really not even about that. It's just about making the most weird, arty 80s movie ever.
You know what's very funny about this?
Yes.
This absolutely reminds me, in a weird way, of I Come in Peace.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Because,
yeah.
that movie is basically... That's a 90s action movie, right?
Yes, but it's
about
an
alien that comes to Earth that basically starts, injecting people full of drugs.
Yep.
And then sucks the chemical reaction out of their brain.
Yeah, or species.
Which is...
This is species.
Yeah. Okay.
Sort of. But it's both. Because, well, okay, let's start at the beginning. I've pulled 5 clips because I have to. This movie. So this one.
It's just a shame because it's the visuals that really are something else.
Oh, it is. But let me tell you, you're going to hear some stuff now, because I'm going to give you just a taste. Yes.
Hold on.
Yeah. Go ahead.
This is interesting.
Yeah.
So this was rare apparently because it was filmed in the U.S., but it was a Russian production team.
Yeah.
From the Soviet Union.
Yes.
Interesting.
And one of the leads is a German who sounds like a Schwarzenegger imitator, which is great. You'll hear him. So yeah, it's a very weird movie all around. I mean,
wow.
Yeah, go ahead.
It spent 28 weeks on Variety's top-grossing film box office chart.
Because I doubt there still is nothing. There's not quite anything like this that I've ever seen. It's so unique because it captures a particular time period. I would bet real money that when you see people doing coke in the movie, they're doing coke in the movie. Because there's no way this didn't come from heavy drugs. So it's all the things, any one thing about this movie would make it fall apart if it was missing. But because it's all together, it is somehow fixating. You just can't stop watching it. It's strange. So let's give you a little taste. And this is the soundtrack at the opening, because this is, oh boy, somebody played a Casio keyboard. Here we go.
This is terrible.
This is the whole movie.
Oh my god.
So that's your soundtrack.
I mean, if the idea is to incite a sense of unease, then it's successful.
Yes. Okay. So that's the opening as you see this little UFO that is literally, as far as I can tell, what looks like 2 plates glued together with a blue light in between. And it's that size. It's not supposed to be a big UFO. It's supposed to be a tiny little UFO, because at one point, when the German scientist shows it to this woman who is actively trying to have sex with him for the most of the movie, and he just doesn't seem to be getting it for a while. And then when he realizes it, then he has to run out the door to help somebody. And she makes this remark where she says, "Oh, you're German?" He says, "Yes." And she's like, "Well, I'm Jewish," as if that's supposed to tell us something, but then it never becomes anything. And I thought, is that supposed to be a Night Porter reference or something where is there supposed to be some angle to that? Because it never comes up again. So I don't really know what that was supposed to be. But we see the UFO land, but she remarks, she's like, "It's so tiny. It looks like a couple of plates glued together." And he's like, "Well, not all aliens are big." And I'm like, okay, man, this is something. So the opening is
I give them credit. They lean into their own.
No, I like that. I like the fact that they just point it out because it lands next to a wine bottle and it's clearly smaller than the wine bottle. I mean, it literally is the size of 2 plates because that's what it is. So it lands and it starts kind of scanning the area. And as that music plays, so the whole opening is that music kind of on almost a loop.
That's
it's
a bit
great.
Much, yeah.
It's a bit much, but it's just kind of, like I said, it's so 80s. So it scans around and it for whatever reason, it focuses on this little apartment where this woman named Margaret lives. Now, what's funny is I didn't realize this when I watched it originally until after I'd watched it. I didn't realize it again this time till after I watched it. Margaret, the actress, plays Margaret the female and Jimmy the male. So she's playing dual roles. But I didn't even notice it. I know they look similar, but because of the way they did the makeup, they don't look, I couldn't tell. Knowing it now, I would be able to pick it out. But
Well, one of them is like the weird model with the face paint, right?
Yes, that's Margaret.
And the other one
Jimmy,
is in a suit.
Yeah, the guy.
Yeah.
And so, but I mean, I did notice, I at first could not tell what the gender was supposed to be. But then they get into this big thing about how anybody in this scene has to be androgynous. That's how models are, and that's how fashion works. So I'm like, oh, okay, so this was intentionally kind of bouncing around with these ideas. And so it lands on the thing. And as it's landing and scanning, we're cutting to a club where people are dancing around, and Margaret and Jimmy are there. And then Margaret's girlfriend, whose name is Adrian, then so I forgot. So Margaret gets hit on by this guy. They go up to her place where she's apparently going to have sex with him, but then he's because he said he had drugs, and so she went up there to do drugs, but then he wants to have sex first before he'll give her the drugs. And so it's her and Jimmy. So Jimmy and her are having a fight about it because Jimmy wants to get high, and Margaret thought they were going to have sex, and Jimmy's like, "I don't care, I just want to have drugs." And so they get into an argument. She's like, "We have to go down because Adrian's about to do her performance." And then Adrian does her performance. And I highlighted it in my review from back then, but I didn't have sound to be able to play for everybody. And I do now. So you get now I want you to picture this, okay? I want you to picture a small, somewhat skinny woman with long brown hair, big kind of alien eyes, dressed all in black with what looks like, well, I guess it was, a beatbox hanging off of her side, like some kind of sound production machine. Okay? Now, I didn't capture the entire thing because it would be like 10 minutes long because they keep intercutting it. So you don't see the performance all together. You keep jumping back and forth and back and forth. But it starts off, I don't have this particular part, where she's holding the microphone to her heart so that the audience, who is all gathered around her in a club, can hear her heartbeat. And then she just starts doing word beatboxing. And I'm going to now play what is probably the best segment of the whole thing, but it's not its entirety. This is only a minute of probably what is, I'm going to guess, actually 6 or 7 minutes of what, for all I know, was an actual performance that this person did as an actual person in life. But I wouldn't be shocked either way. So here we go. Enjoy this because it is magnificent. Here you go.
My rhythm box is sweet, never forgets a beat. It never eats, it never shits, it never sleeps, it only beats. It's obscure, it is its rule. It's always high. So am I. pre-programmed. So what? So what? So what? So what? So what? Who are the friends not?
Yeah. So that happens.
So
Yeah.
you know when you're in an era, but you didn't realize you're in an era,
Yes.
and you're just doing stuff like it's normal,
Right.
and then 20 years down the road, people look back, 30 years down, and they go, "Yeah, the '80s were really weird."
Right. Yes. Like that's what I'm saying. It would not surprise me even a little if this was a real performance that this person did or saw somebody doing it.
I think I've heard music. Sorry, I'm leaning away from the mic. I think I've heard music like
So
this.
have I.
You know,
no,
this,
there's
you know,
a part where she
this
sings it like,
reminds
this
me-
reminds me of something. I've heard this before.
Her voice reminds me of Susie from Susie and the Banshees.
Sure.
But
Or,
like
or a
the
lot
music,
of 80s singers.
where
Yeah.
it's like, but yes, exceptionally pretentious.
Right. So that happens. And it probably is the best part of the movie is this performance because it is so unhinged and just, I mean, almost like if Mel Brooks had been doing it, it would be a comedy. You know, it's so funny.
Oh, no, you know what this would pop up in? This would pop up in Zoolander.
Sure. Yeah. This is, yes. It would not shock me if Zoolander had stuff based off this, of somebody seeing this and being like, oh, we have to incorporate whatever. Yeah. It's crazy. Right. So after we get this, which really doesn't provide anything in terms of the alien plot whatsoever. I really feel like this was just something that they wanted to shoot. Fine. But it is it's mystifying to watch it. It's just great. So then we cut to the German guy arrives and he shows up and he goes in and he meets with this guy. And we now get the explanation for what the alien is. And I will play what he says because, again, I don't think this person was probably a professional actor and may not have had the best command of English. But that both makes it better and funnier. So I'll play it.
In the beginning, aliens were spotted near places with large amounts of heroin. Later, aliens appeared in specific subcultures, punk circles, still around heroin, and in these punk circles, many more strange deaths have occurred.
What's so strange about death in punk circles? They kill each other by shooting too much dope. Don't you remember when we were at Cambridge? There was a war, I think it was between they were called mods and rockers, and they went at each other with bicycle chains. Now, I don't think you punks need help from the outside to kill themselves.
You interrupted me. The most interesting fact we found, these killings occurred during sexual intercourse. I'll show you the documentation of our progress. We have not only located the UFO, but we have managed to photograph the creature inside of the craft, and even made an attempt to classify its various emotional states. What's your schedule like? I need your help. I cannot get too close because it recognizes me and I'm a stranger in this country. There are some things which are difficult for me to study because of that. I watched the creature from the Empire State Building, but at night it is closed. How can I study the behavior of this creature if it's on private property?
Well, I don't know. I'd like to help you, but I don't know what you expect me to do. I'm just a college acting teacher.
Okay, so we get the explanation that these aliens are apparently... Yeah. Go
That
ahead.
is a hell of an accent. I mean,
Isn't it?
I mean, yeah, my brain just kept going, get to the chopper, get to the
Right,
chopper.
right. That's why I said it sounds like an Arnold.
But
impersonation.
honestly,
Yeah.
but oddly, there's an interesting kind of cadence to it, though. Like, it doesn't feel like, you know, you're like, I don't think he was an actor. Yeah, but there is kind of a natural way. You know, it doesn't feel as artificial as I thought it was going to feel.
No. It's not bad. But there's certain things where he doesn't. I have a feeling that this was one of those things where they basically helped him repeat it in English, and somebody would say, okay, but say this a little differently, because there's ways that, and throughout the movie, there's.
Oh, so he doesn't speak English.
Well, this
in
is
real life?
okay. Famously, one of the things I don't know, but famously
Okay.
in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, when they show up in that village and the leader of the
Yeah.
village is talking to them, one of the things is that person spoke no English, and basically they just kept repeating his words.
Bangkok Palace.
Right.
Yeah.
And so they just kind of, and they would help him when he would say something wrong or whatever and say, well, say
Yeah.
it like this. And I have a feeling that this individual did not speak a lot of English, and so probably
Got
was
it.
saying things, but there's parts where he has abrupt kind of jumps and transitions where a person who is more naturally speaking would not say things that way. So it's not that he didn't understand what he was saying, but he may not have been fluent enough. The same way that if I speak in Italian, it is understandable, but it is by no means going to be mistaken by somebody in the country as
Yes,
me
I
knowing
get-
everything
yeah.
I'm saying. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah,
putting the
I-
words together, but I'm not
I
understanding
gotcha.
the flow correctly. It's like that.
Yeah.
So no, it's very listenable. In fact, I found him to be a mesmerizing, like almost like listening to Werner Herzog. Like it's like, oh wow, this is
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
interesting.
I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that part's fine. It's nothing, but I don't think he did speak it naturally or fluently, because sometimes he has these weird jumps in how he's talking or that he just wasn't able to act in English. Maybe it's that. So whatever it is, perfectly fine. Listen, by far the most normal person in the movie, by far. So whatever. So after this, we start to, and I'm not gonna, I'm not going to go over every little detail because it honestly doesn't matter in a movie like this. But essentially what happens is Margaret is continually assaulted throughout the middle of the movie by different men. And, I mean, literal rape in some cases, very aggressive sexual encounters in some cases. And what starts to happen is in none of them does she have an orgasm, but the men do, and they start dying. Basically, when they orgasm, this special effect happens. It looks like Predator vision mixed with something David Lynch would do. And a crystal dart suddenly is shot into their skulls. And at first...
And does a giant alien yell, "I come in peace"? And then
no,
shoot it into their
sadly
head?
not. That would be fantastic. And so at first, when this happens, the first person it happens to is the guy who said, "I'm just an acting teacher."
Yeah.
In a very gross scene where he shows up and Margaret has got to be 20 to 30 years younger than him, and he's hitting on her and kind of coerces her into sex somewhat consensually, but not really. She's just kind of laying there, again, because she's not enjoying any of this. And he gets killed and his body is there, and the girlfriend comes in, because Adrian is her girlfriend. And although she's also horribly abusive towards her, but her abuse is more emotional until a certain point where she also rapes her, but we'll get to that because that's a whole scene in itself. And she's like, "Oh, well, we'll just put the body in a cardboard box and leave it outside. Who cares? You know, nobody's going to miss him." And so they have the body outside in a box. And then she's talking about the fact that she likes to fuck dead bodies. So she's like, "Well, at least I can have sex with him. So, you know, we'll save him just for that."
Oh, God.
This is the
Okay.
beatbox artist. Yeah, she's a wackadoo. So eventually, this all kind of leads up to Oh, in fact, I forgot. There is a sound clip for when the body is laying there and they first realize he's dead, because she can't resist the need to beatbox about his death. Now, let me set this up correctly, because you'll hear the sound effect, but I want to make sure you know what it is. As they discover the body, she kneels, this is the crazy beatboxer, kneels in front of the body and begins punching herself in the leg. And at first I'm like, why is she punching herself? And then I realized she's setting a beat so that she can start doing her spoken word. And then she does this. Again, enjoy.
So you're dead now, shit. And you're going to hell. Straight from your marijuana jungles. Straight from your lies, your lies, your lies. You drop dead fucking. It suits you well. You go to hell. We'll go to hell. I'll go to hell too, but I know I'm damned, and you never knew. So you weren't ready to toll the bell. For me, it's easy. From hell to hell, I'm not dancing in marijuana jungles. I live in concrete mazes, stone and glass. Hard like my heart, sharp and clean. With no romantic illusions to changing the world. I don't lie to myself that love can cure, because I know I'm alone.
She's clearly making this
Fought
up on
that
the spot.
every day You lived. You lied. Lied. You lied. You go to hell.
What
Suits you well.
what is the point of this in the movie?
I don't know. I'm
Okay.
telling you, I think this woman was
We're
probably a performance
We're gonna
artist.
call this character development.
Sure, because it doesn't add anything. It just happens. But again, it's one of those things where you're like, wow.
but you know what she reminds me of weirdly though?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So because you know the voice, like think where we've heard that cadence before.
Yeah.
It's gonna sound weird, but if you listen to the Neuromancer audiobook, there's a point in the book where William Gibson, who read this version of it, is trying to change his voice because he's doing Case's girlfriend, Lyra Lynn. Was it Lyra? Jesus Christ, what's her name? Lyra Lynn Lee or whatever.
Loretta Lee, isn't it? Loretta
I
Lynn
can't
Lee?
remember.
No,
Basically,
whatever.
the girlfriend that robs him, and then she gets killed later on, and then he sees her kind of ghost in into the Wintermoot fake world. But when Gibson is trying to kind of like do her voice, which a lot of audiobook people do, they try to like, if it's a male reading a female, they try to like, he kind of sounds like this woman. Because some of the things that the dead girlfriend says when they're in the kind of holographic brain space are like very sort of dreamlike, and it reminds me of this woman. She was doing the beatbox thing, and it kept nagging at me. I was like, "What? It sounds like something I've heard before." But she is clearly kind of just making that up.
Oh yeah, because she's repeating things. That's what I'm saying. I wouldn't be shocked. It doesn't say, so I don't know.
Yeah.
If this person was an actual performance
But I mean,
artist.
it is. We'll call it character development.
It adds. Hold on, I'm looking up Paula Shepherd. That's the actress's name. New Jersey raised Paula Shepherd. Oh, performing as a dancer in a local play. Okay, so. Several years later, she made her second and final film
also
appearance.
makes me think of. It also makes me think of how. So I Married an Axe Murderer.
Yeah.
Harriet, sweet Harriet. Like it's that.
Yeah.
that
It's
level
a
of-
strange, but it's very hypnotic. I mean, she's the most watchable thing when she's doing this. Like she blows everything else away, because it's just like such an again unhinged performance. It's great. So they do that. Then they put the body in a box. They store it. So then the middle of it is now Margaret starts to figure out that the aliens, she thinks the aliens are, she calls them, I think she calls them Indian as a name. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. I don't know if she just came up with a name out of nowhere. I don't know why she starts calling them that. But she starts to think that the alien is either a phantasm or she doesn't realize it's an alien necessarily. She seems to think it's some person or some. She keeps saying it when she's looking at the Empire State Building. So I don't know if she thinks the Empire State Building is alive or something. But then she starts actually actively finding these men who tried to assault her or did and trying to lure them back into the apartment because
so
now she can kill them.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Now, at first, they are dying with the little crystal in their head. But then they're doing a fashion shoot there because she is a model. And for whatever reason, they start kind of ganging up with her and Jimmy, and they're trying to get Jimmy to have sex with her for some reason. And so she starts to go down on him because the whole room has pressured her to. And she keeps trying to say, you don't want to do this because something bad's going to happen. And he's like, no, you're going to do it. And so when he orgasms, the alien kills him, but then the alien, for whatever reason, turns him into tinfoil, which she then sucks into her body, and he disappears. And everybody sees it. And they're like, wait a minute.
And they're like, man, that's the most amazing performance I've ever seen.
Well,
man.
they're all snorting coke during the thing. So they're like, wait,
okay.
where is he? Must be they think it's a magic act. They're like, you've got him out on the balcony or something like that. And she keeps saying, no, I'm telling you that when somebody has sex with me and they have an orgasm, they die. At which point Adrian grabs her and says, well, you're going to fuck me to death, and starts scissoring her until she orgasms and turns into tinfoil and is ingested, I guess, into her vagina. It's unclear, but that's where she was positioned. And now everybody believes her. I'm not kidding. Yeah.
So she's like, I know it'll kill me. I want you to
I
scissor me
almost
to death.
pulled the clip, but it's not the audio's tough. But she's basically saying, "Yeah, fuck me to death, fuck me to death, fuck me," like that. She's saying that, like literally saying.
Okay.
I should have pulled the clip, but I was like, okay, I've got too many clips of this movie already.
Okay.
Right. So across the street, the German scientist and the woman who keeps trying to seduce him are watching this happen. And the German says, "Oh no, she's in trouble." Because, I don't think she realizes that she's not killing these people, that the alien is. I've got to go rescue her. So he leaves. The woman, who's very upset, having watched two people die, not that they're dead, but that this guy ran out on her. So he leaves. He runs over and gets there. And then we have this bit of dialogue, which is my last clip for this movie. So here we go.
What do you want?
My name is Johann Hoffman. I'm a scientist. I've come to get you out of here. We should leave immediately.
What do you know?
I've watched you through your window. I have witnessed the death from over there. I know how and why they died. You're in great danger. Come with me.
So you tell me why they died.
What difference does it make to you now? Come with me.
Wait a minute, you come into my place and you want me to leave and you don't want to tell me why?
Okay, you have a creature, an alien creature on your roof.
Where?
I study these creatures. You are in great danger. Come with me.
Tell me where he is.
You want to die?
No.
Let me explain.
Let me go.
Let me explain.
Let
My
go.
theory is that these creatures, aliens, feed of people like we feed of other creatures, that they need for sustenance a substance similar to opiates. Heroin is an opiate. So this one came here for it, and we found something better. That substance is produced in the brain during orgasm and is similar in chemical structure to opiates. It is killing to get this substance.
Well, he didn't kill me, did he? Why didn't he kill me?
Did you have an orgasm?
And so she basically shakes her head no, so it's not in the clip. But she basically shakes her head no, and he's like, well, that's why. And she's like, I don't believe you. Show me this alien. And he's like, fine. So he takes her outside, and the alien is just right on the roof. I mean, she just looked up. The little plates are right there. So he points up, and he's like, there's the alien right there. At which point he says, I'm going to try to destroy them or, capture them. And she says no. She takes out a knife and stabs him in the back and kills him. So she kills the German. At which point the woman from across the street sees him get stabbed and leaves and runs over to try to figure out, to help him. And she's there, and another woman is there from another subplot that honestly doesn't even matter. It's so I forgot all about them because they're basically it's just one more guy that tries to have sex with her and gets killed. So that's the only reason this other woman is there, because that's his girlfriend. So the two of them are there, and they're looking for her, and she's yelling at the alien, "Take me, Indian, take me! I can be with you now. I've killed the guy trying to kill you. We can be together again." I don't know what together means for her, but something, I guess, because this is the only person who seems to care about her, maybe, or whatever. And so then they look up, and she's on the roof, and the spaceship shoots out a beam, and she does what I would call a David Lynch, like, weird kind of stitching spasm thing, and then the screen all goes white. She vanishes. The spaceship lifts off and takes off, and we get credits. And more of like the music comes up, and that's it. So I don't know what I'm supposed to make of that ending, but honestly, it doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter. This is a pure weirdo art house film that what was the movie? I just talked about a movie where I said I don't think more than 5 or 10 people on the planet would rewatch this movie. What the hell was it? I just reviewed it.
Was this the werewolf biker movie?
Yeah, werewolves on wheels. Okay. This is the same thing, except I think that in this case, there's probably 1,000 people on the planet that would rewatch it, as opposed to 10.
I don't know. They were on that best of list for a while.
I mean, that's a good point. Obviously, people were watching, but I mean, it is such a. I believe originally it was probably watched by people who were extraordinarily high on something. And they were like, yeah, look at this shit. It's fucking wacko.
Or the people living in the 80s were looking for a movie that was maximum 80s. And this was...
Yeah, then it is that. It is that. So it is out on a Blu-ray from Vinegar Syndrome, of course. I have it. It's excellent. If you're into this kind of weird shit. If you're not, boy, will you be bored and or confused. I think more confused than anything. It's not boring. I shouldn't say it's boring. It's too weird.
Did the German guy, did he do anything else? Because his voice is very...
Well, it sounds like Arnold. I don't know. Let's see. Let's take a look. I didn't look. Let me take a look. Did he do anything else? That guy's name is... Hold on.
Because Anna the Carlisle, she went on to do like kind of bit work and other stuff.
Yeah, so Johann would be him. Otto von Wernher. He was
so
on Perfect Strangers for an episode.
Oh my God.
He did 5 movies. Sorry, he did 5
what was the name of the crazy beatboxer?
That was Susanna Shepard. She basically quit acting to do something else. She was a dancer, did some movie work, and then quit. So she didn't really do much of anything.
Her name is Susanna Shepard?
I believe it's Suzanne. Hold on, let me go back.
Paula
E. Shepard. Sorry, Paula E. Shepard.
Oh my God! Yeah, she doesn't look. She doesn't look at all the way. Oh wait.
Yes.
No, she doesn't look the way I thought she was going to look.
Oh, there's the picture of her with the beatbox.
Yeah.
Yeah, there she is. Yeah. Well, because in that other picture, she looks really young. That looks like a very young picture of her. The Alice, Sweet Alice, I think, is that picture, and that's from 6 years before this. So she was probably extremely, she had to be very young in that. Very young.
There's a soundtrack for this, and she's on it.
Oh, then I'm going to buy it. I will buy it.
She has a track on the soundtrack. Me and my rhythm box.
That's it. That's this. Oh yeah, because I told you it goes on. It's not short.
Oh
it's
yeah.
Short.
So I wonder if they fully they did they fully recorded that as a song.
I can only imagine. I have a feeling it was a real thing. Yeah, I think it was a real thing. So the guy the German guy was on a series for 23 episodes called The Edge of Night from 1984. So a couple of years after this. And he is, it says he's in every episode, so I guess he was in a bunch of it. Yeah, Edge of Night it's apparently a crime show of some kind. Yeah, so there you go. So he did do some stuff.
A German show or a...
No, American. It stars Forrest Compton and Ann Flood. I don't know them, but they sort of look familiar. No, there's lots of big names. Lori Loughlin's in it.
Edge of Night. I've never even heard of this.
Well, it's 1984. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. It says 1956 to 84. So what was this one they revived? Oh yeah, there's black and white pictures. I guess this was an old series that then got redone or continued. Wow, that's really weird. Huh. Yeah. Okay.
Interesting.
Well, there you go. So yes, he did some other stuff. Nobody else seems to have done anything. So anyway, that's Liquid Sky.
Okay.
Those sound clips will either sell you on it or not by themselves. If you want to watch a 80s as hell film that is clearly the product of Coke and no care about if the movie really makes sense, this might be your film. It's probably still on YouTube in a crude form. So if you watch that and you're intrigued, you can buy the better copy. And it is a very,
80s
very copy.
80s is hell. Okay.
Oh, it is. I mean, oh, God, is it. So, now the movie I have more to say about. Now, you have seen Cast a Deadly Spell, right? I'm sure you have.
Which one's that?
That's the one. Oh, God, what's the guy's name? It's the Lovecraft movie, but it's the kind of funny one where the guy from...
with Fred Ward.
That's it. I was going to say the Tremors guy. Yeah.
I love that movie, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So you've seen that one. Have you seen...
Yeah.
1994's Witch Hunt with Dennis Hopper, the reimagining of it.
Wait, Witch Hunt, what year, 1984?
94, because it came after Cast a Deadly Spell. Yeah. Have you seen this?
Is it supposed to be the same character?
As far as I can tell.
Philip Lovecraft?
That's it. Yep. H. Philip Lovecraft. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I heard of this, but I never saw it.
Okay. So, this is
supposed to be almost like a sequel, isn't it? Like it's the same world.
From what I read, no.
Yeah.
Because that's what most people think, because it's the same name. But from what I've read, and it does make sense more because there's no character.
Well, maybe it's because it was made by HBO.
It's an HBO TV movie, right?
And on the release, it says it's a kind of magic.
Yeah.
Which was the same tagline they used for the Fred Ward movie.
So what I believe this is what we would today call a reimagining. This was them taking the same idea and doing a new version of it. Okay. Because I don't. It's definitely not a sequel. Or if it is, it makes no sense to be a sequel because there's no indication the other movie came first. There are elements of the other one in this, but without any narrative connection. I don't believe it's a sequel.
Right.
I mean, you could watch it and you could determine that.
I'm going to look to see if there's any explanation for this.
Yeah, I mean, because there are lots of people who are like, it's a sequel, and then other people are like, no, it's not. It doesn't. How could it be a sequel? Because this happens. So, the movie starts out, and there is a narration saying that magic is commonplace.
The official line, right, from HBO, was that it is a reinterpretation of the concept.
There you go. That makes complete sense. So anybody who says
there is no continuity.
That's what I'm saying.
It is a reinterpretation of the concept.
Right. So let's get this out of the way up front. Cast a Deadly Spell is a better movie. In terms of just purely this, my comparisons in my 5, and I'll make them again here, are Predator, Predator 2. Cast a Deadly Spell is Predator. Witch Hunt is Predator 2.
But Predator 2 is a very fun movie.
That's what right. So, but if you were to tell somebody which is the better movie, would you have to think about it for more than 2 seconds?
I would because I love Predator. Predator is a great movie, right? Yeah. But I have found so much enjoyment with Predator 2.
So have I.
And I have watched Predator 2 more than I've watched the first Predator. I love them both.
I wouldn't say I've watched it more, but I love them both. But there is
Predator
no way
1
that I would tell somebody,
is the better movie.
That's what I'm saying. It's not to say don't watch Predator 2.
But is Witch Hunt a fun movie?
Yes, and that's why I'm making that direct comparison that both of them can coexist.
So they maintain the comedy, but they maintain the comedy element, or they get dark.
The comedy is intermittent more than it is in Cast a Deadly Spell.
So it's less funny than Cast a Deadly Spell.
It's less. It's trying to be less funny. It's not. The comedic elements are different. I don't know how else to put it.
Okay.
Almost the same way that Predator 2 has a very different feeling than Predator 2 isn't a horror movie. Predator 1 kind of is. I mean, it is guys being hunted in the jungle. Yeah. Right. Whereas Predator 2 is more like, okay, this is just silly now, and it's going to have a good time, and that's what you have. That's what this is. So, Dennis Hopper is playing the Lovecraft character, okay? So we get this opening that sets up the world, which is basically L.A. L.A. in the 40s, 50s, whatever. I think it's supposed to be 50s, where magic is now used by everybody. So it's a commonplace thing. There's no... Well, I'll play his explanation. So here is your opening to the world that we're going to be in.
It started off small. It wasn't a conspiracy or anything. It was like, it was just like a fad. Somebody bent a spoon or levitated their dog. Next thing you knew, it was starting to spread. Pretty soon the whole neighborhood was doing it. And in a little while, it was all over the place. Like a Tupperware party. Still, I never thought it was evil. It's just natural. It's human curiosity. At worst, I thought it was a crutch. Magic can make people lazy. And if you're not careful, it can creep up on you. Instead of taking out the trash takes out itself. Instead of washing the dishes, you just encourage them. Nobody sees it happen to them. It just happens. So it makes my job a little tougher. But it's nothing to get hysterical about. Last year, it was hula hoops, and Senator Crockett never held congressional hearings about that. Sure, I get tempted to use it. Who doesn't? But in my business, it's better just to work clean.
So what he's referring to when he says Senator Crockett is, in the opening, as it's showing us people like lighting their cigarettes from their hands and levitating things, there's a senator in the background, and this movie has no subtlety. Just understand that from the beginning. It is essentially a senator, and instead of it being communism and McCarthyism, it's Crocketism and magic. So magic is going to secretly corrupt everybody. And his target is specifically Hollywood, that magic has infested Hollywood. He wants to have hearings because he thinks it's ruining this country. So basically there's putting in, instead of communism, now it's magic, right? That's what it is. So we get this opening, explains that, where he talks about his attitude towards it. And we see him, he finds a guy, and they criminally waste Debbie Mazar. She's in one scene. When I saw her name, I was like, oh, I love Debbie Mazar. She's in one scene as a blonde, which fine, I guess, but that's a complete waste of how gorgeous she is with dark hair.
Oh,
anyway,
yes, okay.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not a good look. But she's in the movie for literally 2 or 3 lines and she's gone. So I don't even know why her name's in the credits. I mean, I guess because she's a known name, but she's not in the movie. It is like a glorified cameo.
Yeah, the more I read about this, it feels like an unnecessary reinterpretation of Cast a Deadly Spell.
Well, we'll get to that.
Okay.
But I don't know if I'd say unnecessary. I don't mind that it exists because Julian Sands is great in it. So that alone, for me,
Okay.
and Dennis Hopper. I mean, Dennis Hopper's always good.
Apparently, he said this was one of the weirdest movies he ever did.
Oh, I'm sure, because there are weird things. This is the other thing that I think justifies it. Not at the time they were making it, their intent, but now to watch it, there's weird decisions that I like. So, Dennis Hopper does this narration after he hands this guy back to his wife, who he owes money to her for alimony or whatever. And when we see him go into his office, and he works in the same, across from a licensed witch, whose name is, I mean, I always thought it was pronounced Hippolyta, but apparently it's Hippolyta or something. Whatever. I'm just gonna call her licensed witch, played by Cheryl Lee Ralph is the actress's name. She's very good. And so he goes into his office and he runs into Penelope Ann Miller. And Penelope Ann Miller, who's always good, is in his office and basically says, "Yeah, I'm married to one of these big shop producers whose name is Gottlieb, and I am pretty sure that he has decided to have an affair with this young actress that he's cast in the movie that I'm in because he keeps giving her more and more screen time, and I want you to follow him, basically almost like Roger Rabbit style." This becomes very Roger Rabbit later.
Find incriminating evidence, yeah.
Yeah, find out what's going on. So he's like, "Okay, I'll do it. Here's my price." She's like, "Here you go," and she leaves. And so he goes up to the roof, and the witch is having a seance up there, like a perfectly normal thing. So he's just smoking a cigarette. She's having a seance with a pentagram and everything. And when the thing breaks up, he's like, "Yeah, listen, I'm trying to figure out, I'm trying to find out about this guy Gottlieb." And she's like, "Oh, well, come with me. I got to go meet with him." And he's like, "All right." So he tags along with her. They go to this warehouse. Gottlieb and his entourage show up, and basically the witch stands there and like throws some bones on the ground and then says a spell. And when she says the spell, the words physically materialize and come out of her mouth, like physically. And they're like swirling around, and they create this portal, and a individual materializes, and you find out that it's William Shakespeare. And Gottlieb's like, "Great. Now I've got a great writer I can use to make movies." And they basically take Shakespeare, who as far as we can tell is Shakespeare moved out of the past and into the present, and they take him and throw him in the back of a car against his will and drive off. And so it's like, what the fuck? All right, so they've got him. And so then Lovecraft and Licensed Witch are walking out, at which point they spot Julian Sands. And Lovecraft's like, "I'll catch up with you. I got to go talk to him." And we get this little piece of dialogue, which is on the nose foreshadowing, but I'll play anything with Julian Sands in it because he was great in almost everything I saw him in. So we get this little bit of dialogue to set up things that will happen later.
Thin marks. Moses on a pony if it isn't Phil Lovecraft. Well, how's the world treating you, dickface?
I thought you were in Chicago.
Oh, you miss the friendly people and the orange juice.
What are you doing for Gottlieb?
Privileged information. But from one large member to another, he called me in as a security consultant and expediter. I tie up loose ends.
It seems to me they're still looking for a couple of people you expedited.
Are you still chasing naughty husbands, dickface, and drying the tears of those poor lonely wifey poos?
Tell me something. Honestly. Do I look like I have a dick on my face?
That's how I like you, Phil. I like to take things apart, see how they work. Watches, phonographs, people. I like to see inside.
Now, what we see here is a drop of magical liquid with a snake in it. It'll be important later.
Well, I'll see you around, Phil.
don't think so.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. You and me, we've still got business to settle.
Right. Okay. So we know that they know each other. They have a history. And he does this thing, that part where he said, I like to see inside, and then you get that sound effect. He threw his cigarette down, and it turned into a pile of liquid with a red snake running through it. Right?
Yeah.
So that's obviously a setup for something later, which you'll hear a sound bit about, and we'll get into that. So Lovecraft decides to tail Gottlieb to this house that he drives up to, and when he gets there, you see, and throughout the movie, there's neat little stuff. Like, they sprinkle how people use magic in really subtle ways without really, even though I said the movie isn't subtle, it is when it comes to this. Because what we see is when they pull up, it's raining, and a guy comes out to open the door for them, and the guy has a umbrella levitating above him, but he's not holding it. It's just there. So they don't make a big deal of it, but you just see all these little ways that people use small-time magic, which I like. So this guy comes out to escort them, and then a raven with demon eyes holding a red snake lands on the car, looks at Lovecraft, and he passes out. Okay? So then he wakes up, and of course the cars are gone. It's the next day. So he goes back to his office. And then we cut to Gottlieb's office. He's in a producer's office. He's got 2 Doberman pinchers, and he's in there, and Penelope Ann Miller, who I'll just call Pam because it's easier. Pam is, ranting and raving about the fact that her role is getting smaller and the other actresses is getting bigger. And Gottlieb essentially just comes out and says, you know what? Yeah, you caught me. I don't care. You're fired. I'm going to go with her. She's better than you in almost every way anyway. And so she says, fine, I'll get mine from you in court or something like that. She storms out. And when she storms out, she then says this line, which I will keep just as an evergreen, because this is a wonderful Penelope Ann Miller line, and I'm just going to play it because I love it.
This isn't the first time I've been fucked in a producer's office.
Yeah, I don't really know what I'll use that for, but I'm going to keep it. It's just too good. So, yeah, that's just great. So she says that. She, again, stomps out. And then what we see is Gottlieb, after that, closes his doors, goes back in to make a call, and then he sits down in his chair, and then, he starts to kind of notice something is wrong, and he starts shrinking. He literally is shrinking, and he shrinks and shrinks and shrinks so much that he looks like a piece of meat to his dogs, who then eat him. So then we cut to Lovecraft shows up at Pam's house, Penelope Ann Miller's house, and she says, well, I tried to follow him to this house. And she's like, stay away from that house. He's like, why? And she's like, don't worry about it. That house isn't involved in this. And it doesn't matter anyway. He fired me. So it doesn't, what's the point? I'll pay you what I owe you, but it's over with because I know now what I need to know and you can't help me. At which point her phone rings and she picks it up and it's the cops calling her to tell her that Gottlieb is dead. So now we cut back to Gottlieb's office and there is a hysterical little tiny chalk outline near his desk. This is what I mean about the humor is like it's intermittent, but it's great. And next to it is a napkin with some bloodstains that is clearly covering his body. And so the I don't know if the sound clip has this or not, but the coroners come in with a stretcher and he's like, what do you need a stretcher for? Just go get a lunchbox. And they literally bring in a lunchbox and put the body in it to carry it out, right? So then Lovecraft shows up and he knows the cops, so he kind of goes over and we get this little exchange here.
What the hell are you doing here?
It's good to see you too, Bradbury. What happened?
Come on, give.
I'm a friend of the widow's. What happened?
Somebody put the big whammy on Gottlieb and cut him down to size.
Wow. And?
Ever see 2 dogs play tug-of-war with a bone? Forget the gurney. You can get him out of here in a lunch pail.
Yeah, there it is.
Oh, you thinking of something?
I'm thinking that according to this lady, the last person to see Gottlieb before he got small was your friend, the widow. Okay, break it up. This is a police investigation. Come on.
Lieutenant Bradbury, heard good things about you. Parson Crockett. What's being done about this ghastly business?
We're working on it.
Good. This is just another example of how magic has shot its sinister tentacles into the motion picture industry. I give my personal pledge that soon a new day will dawn on a witch-free America. a more wholesome country. As we proceed with our Los Angeles hearings and prepare our patriotism rally,
I thought the magic was trouble, but now that they're trying to outlaw the stuff, how come I'm not so happy?
If God doesn't destroy
senator?
Hollywood,
Yeah.
You'll know him when you
he
see him, but I
owes
don't know his
Sodom
name
and
offhand.
Gomorrah an apology.
But, So basically, yeah, the senator comes in, makes a big show of why this is yet another example of how magic is bad. And so then we cut to the funeral where they're basically putting a very tiny coffin or whatever into the ground. And in the background, we see Lovecraft.
Oh, jeez, it's him. Okay,
He's
yeah.
been in a million things.
Eric Bogosian, yeah.
There you
He's
go.
been in
Yeah.
a ton
And
of
he's
stuff,
been in a
yeah.
million things, yeah. So you know his voice, you know his face. And so Pam is there at the funeral, and she runs into Lovecraft, and she's like, all right, well, now I need you to clear my name because it seems like maybe they're going to frame me for this because the cops are kind of following me around, and they think I have something to do with this. And he's like, all right, well, sure, I'll look into it for you because I don't think you had anything to do with it, so I'll look into it. So he goes back and meets with the witch, and he's like, look, I want you to come up to the house that I followed them to and see if you can figure out anything or whatever, if you know anybody who can help. And she's like, yeah, I know a couple people. And so she brings a woman and a man with her. The woman is, I think it's psychometry, is the thing where you touch something and you can tell.
Yes,
what,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what it's supposed to be, yeah.
Okay, so she's a psychometrist, I guess. And the guy can do weird things like start cars that won't start, but I don't know what his power set necessarily is because he doesn't do all that much. He's just kind of there for little exposition bits here and there, but he's just there. So the woman goes and she's reading the car and says, okay, the car that's in the driveway, and says, okay, there was a man, there were two men and two women or something like that, or two men and a woman, or a man and a woman, I can't remember what the number was, and they went in the house, so let's go in the house. So they go in the house, and she goes in and she says, there's nothing here. And he says, okay, well, sometimes there's nothing to read. And she's like, no. She's like, somebody wiped the house. Like somebody came in and wiped everything out. There were memories. I shouldn't be seeing nothing. I should just be seeing emptiness or like empty memories. But this has been magically wiped, right? So then Harry finds a little broken stem of a martini glass. And he's like, okay, well, that's a clue, I guess. And then he goes to the house, because this house is not the house that Pam was warning him against. And that's a different house. So he goes to that one, and that's the one where he got knocked out earlier, the one where the Raven appeared. So he goes, and he's trying to sneak in, and he gets caught, and he gets knocked out. He wakes up, and we see the guy. There's two guys. One is the guy who was opening the door that had the little magic umbrella. And then there's like a young guy. And the big guy, who doesn't say anything, leaves the room, and the other guy is basically watching Lovecraft. And he says, hey, I didn't realize people still used zombies. So what we find out is the big guy is the zombie. That's why he's not speaking. And the guy's like, yeah,
well, a lot of this is stuff from
right?
the other one.
Yeah, there's bits and pieces where I was remembering the other movie. I'm like, okay, I remember bits of this. And the guy's like, yeah, you can use them for a couple months before they start to rot. And he's like, oh, okay. So he knocks the kid out because this is a young kid, and he's like realizes he's inexperienced. So he knocks him out, and then he sneaks up to this room, and in the room there is a woman playing a piano and another individual who is playing a woman, but the actor is a man. So I don't know what that's supposed to be. I don't know if we're supposed to know that's a man or not because it's never pointed out. They just, and the name is a female name, Vivian. So I don't know what that's supposed to be. I don't know if there's a larger commentary or what.
Maybe it's just not supposed to matter.
That's what I'm saying, is I don't know whether there was supposed to be something to that or not. But I immediately recognized, I went, okay, I'm pretty sure that's a man playing a woman or whatever. I don't care. I just don't know if, like I said, there's some kind of meaning to that. Because then I'm like, oh, is that supposed to be like the seedy part of these rich people that are meeting with people behind closed doors because they don't want it to get out in the public type of thing? Because that kind of becomes what it is. The woman playing the piano, the one guy keeps saying, no, make her a brunette. So they change her hair color. And then she stands up and comes over. He's like, I'd like her bigger on top. So they make her breasts bigger. So it's basically magical prostitutes that you can customize to what you want. And that's what Vivian is. She's the brothel owner. And so then Harry gets knocked out again because they knock him out and they catch him. Oh, and when they wake him up, then Julian Sands is there again. And he's basically like, what are you doing here? I thought you were working for Gottlieb. And he's like, well, yeah, I was working for him, but I'm also working for the brothel owner because I can do more than one thing at a time. And he says, okay, do you know anything about the beach house? And Sands is like, I don't know, what beach house are you talking about? And he figures out from the way he answers, he's like, okay, you do know what the beach house is. You're probably the one who wiped it. That's probably the place where they send the clients with the prostitutes from here. But why? And Sands is like, you don't need to know that. And he's like, get out of here before, something worse happens to you. And they basically throw him out. So Lovecraft goes, and he goes to find Pam. And Pam is at a drive-in movie, watching a movie with herself in it. And because she says she likes to see her acting or something. So he's like, well, here's what I found. And I think you know more about this because you kept trying to warn me off that house. And that house is connected to where whatever happened that involved Gottlieb went on that was wiped. So you must know something. At which point a random woman shows up and starts talking to Pam. And, clearly they know each other. And Lovecraft's like, well, who's that? And she's like, it's a friend of mine. Don't worry about it. And then in the movie at that point, a guy fires a gun at the screen, and now the bullets start coming out. So now they got to get out of the car, and they're running. And the woman, whose name is Marie, grabs Pam's car, steals it, and drives off. And Lovecraft takes Pam, since she doesn't have a car now, drives her back to the office. And Lovecraft is like, well, I'm going to call the cops because I'm going to report a stolen car. Maybe they can bring this woman in and question her. And Pam stops him and hangs the car up. And then he's asking her all these questions like, okay, you know something. You're hiding something. And so then she starts to try to turn on the seduction beam. She's like, well, we could discuss this or we could have a drink. And he's like, yeah, no. He's like, I don't get involved with people when there's too many questions floating around them. So you can shut that shit down right now. And right after he says that, the phone rings. He picks it up and it's the cops. And the cops are like, hey, you better come down to the dock. There's something here you might be interested in. He goes down. And the same cops are there from Gottlieb's office. And they're fishing the car out of the water. And in the water is that woman, but she's been turned into a mannequin. And so the cop's like, this car belongs to your client. You wouldn't happen to know where she is. And he's like, I don't know. She hired me to clear her name, but, I can't divulge that information. The cop's like, man, you better be careful with this one. The classic, she's gonna drag into her own business, right? Like, don't let your guard down with this one. She's these beautiful women. They're the most dangerous type of thing, right? So by the time Lovecraft comes back, it's now the morning and Pam is long gone. And the witch is there, and she gave the witch a note, and the witch gives him the note, and it just says sorry, and that's about it, and she's just gone. And so the witch says, I can see that raven and the snake are both on you. And he's like, how'd you know about the snake? I didn't tell you about the snake. And she's like, I can see things, man. And that snake belongs to you somehow. And he's like, all right. And right before they're about to get into what that means, some guys bust in and serve the witch with a summons to appear at a Senate hearing. And then Lovecraft is there, and he's like, well, what's all this about? And he's like, oh, you're Lovecraft, right? And he's like, yeah, I'm Lovecraft. And he's like, well, the senator wants to meet you, so come with us. So he goes to a rally that's being held by the senator, which is basically a big amphitheater. And there's a big banner that says, no more magic in Hollywood. And then in the middle, there's a stake, to burn a witch at. And so then we get this nice little bit of exposition. So here we go.
Larson Crockett, pleased to meet you.
Phil Lovecraft.
Heard a lot about you, Phil. Heard a considerable lot about you. Hope you don't mind meeting out here. Got a lot to do in precious little time. Our support grows bigger every day.
That's a little premature, isn't it?
The stake? You might say it's symbolic. Nice centerpiece for the rally. Of course, now that Congress has passed the capital punishment bill, well, then it could be something else, couldn't it?
Why did you subpoena Kropotkin?
I take it you know she's a card-carrying witch. Having an office across from her, you probably see things, hear things, smell things.
I'm smelling something right now.
I thought you were the man who didn't believe in magic.
Oh, I believe in it. I just don't use it. Oh, it's a gift from a friend.
Friends are a valuable commodity, Phil, but you gotta be careful. Don't let people get too close, things rub off. Man has to be very careful of the company he keeps.
You must get very lonely.
Would you give a loaded gun to a child, Lovecraft? Would you let a baby play with a blowtorch? Of course you wouldn't. I love the people of this country. I love them enough to protect them from sinister forces out to exploit their appetites. I want you to join my personal staff. Come on board as a full-time, paid investigator. Together we can bring about an end to this plague.
Well, I appreciate your offer, but I got clients.
The Gottlieb killing? There are better uses for your talents.
How many times did you and Gottlieb meet?
Just once. He came by my hotel. He wanted to talk in private, so we drove around for a few hours. He told me many disturbing things about the influence of magic in the motion picture business. I tried to get him to testify for my committee, but he was too afraid. Not unjustifiably, as it turned out.
Well, that's too bad.
Yes, Gottlieb would have made a very powerful witness, but under the circumstances, his wife will be just as effective. As Gottlieb's widow, she felt it was her duty to uncover the forces of magic corrupting the movies. She's testifying tomorrow morning, just before your friend, Kropotkin.
Okay, so this sets up the next scene. So we cut to that, which is the Senate hearing. And in the Senate hearing, we see that Pam is testifying. And up until now, anytime she was talking about Gottlieb, she didn't care. She was disgusted, blah, blah, blah. You know, didn't give a shit because, you know, he was having sex with this other actress. So she was, you know, didn't care. So in the hearing, though, she's very distraught and talking about how it was so terrible that he was murdered by magic. And, you know, he was a good man who was brought low by the magic corrupting. So basically she's playing along with what Crockett wants the narrative to be, right? And so everything is going along and, you know, he's asking her questions that she's clearly ready for and acting the right way because, of course, she's an actress. And then there was a watch chain that we saw Gottlieb every time we'd see the character, the producer. He'd be playing with this little watch chain thing. And so Crockett, the senator, he pulls out this watch chain. He says, hey, do you know who happened to give him this chain? And you can see that she wasn't expecting this. This was a surprise. So she doesn't really want to answer, and he keeps pressing her, and he says, you are under oath. You have to answer. And so she finally says, I was told that I believe the witch gave it to him. And he says, thank you very much. And, of course, this is now becoming a setup for the witch. So they dismiss her, and they bring her to the stand, and they basically have her confirm she gave him the watch. And Crockett's like, well, it's interesting because he was killed very shortly after he got this watch chain from you. And for all we know, you cursed it or you did something to it or whatever. And she's saying, I didn't do anything like that. It was a good luck charm. And he's like, well, I don't know. I mean, it seems suspicious to me. But, you know, if you're willing to name the coven that you belong to, if you would name the names of the people that are in your coven, then maybe we could talk. And she's like, I'm not going to name anything. And he's like, well, then I have to figure that if you won't recant your magic beliefs and you won't name your coven, then this was you acting in a lone wolf type of thing, and we're going to have to sentence you to death under the new Anti-Magic Act. And so they sentence her to burn at the stake. That's why the stake was there. So she's dragged out of the courtroom, and so Lovecraft had warned Pam to get out because she said, I didn't know they were going to do this. She's like, get out of here. And there were some other people from the coven. He's like, get out before they figure out that you're part of this. And so he gets him out of the room. So he goes and he finds Pam holed up in a hotel. And he says, look, you know, I don't think you knew that they were going to set the witch up. And she's like, I didn't. That was not part of the plan. I was supposed to get immunity if I testified that magic was bad so that it would advance what he wants to do. But they didn't say anything to me about burning a witch. Nothing of this. I didn't know anything about the watch. No, nothing. And he's like, well, now that's happening. So you're going to have to tell me what's going on here. And so we get this did we get the explanation? Yeah, I think this is the explanation. I think this clip is, or maybe not. No, I think this is, never mind. That's not that. Sorry. So, well, basically what she explains is, because he says, I know you knew the woman who got killed, and I know you know something about that beach house because you kept telling me not to go there. What happened? And she says that basically the brothel owner runs a scam on rich or influential people where they take that woman who got killed. She's always the prostitute that goes with them. She gets modified into whatever they want. And then she makes them get into rough sex so that she can fake getting killed. And then when she fakes getting killed, in a panic, they call the brothel owner. She shows up, says, well, I can clean it up, but now you owe me. And then she has these people in their pocket, right? And so she says, okay, Lovecraft says to her, okay, but why are you going along with this? And Pam says, well, because the brothel owner, Vivian, she helped me with something. He says, what? And he says, and she takes off her necklace that she's worn. She don't even notice. They don't really make a big deal of it, but she has a necklace on. She takes it off, at which point she suddenly becomes normal looking. And what I really like about this particular thing that they do is I'm 99% sure that all they did was have Penelope Ann Miller without makeup. It's her. They don't change the actress. And all it is all the makeup and everything goes away and she's just there. And it's because she's talking and everything without it. And I think it's just her without makeup, which is fucking ballsy, number one, because you do see how much different somebody looks, which we knew, but it's very clearly shown because then she puts the necklace back on and all the makeup comes back and she becomes like she is in the rest of the movie, which is very made up. But I love the fact that I'm pretty sure it's just her without makeup.
That's a pretty simple trick, though. Think about it. Like that doesn't cost them anything.
It doesn't, but I don't know that a lot of actresses would even do it. Because of course we know they don't look like that all the time, but you don't normally see it like that. Mm-hmm. So anyway, she puts the thing back on, and after telling about the scam and everything like that, and then you get this line where Lovecraft says that he sees water everywhere. He's like, water everywhere. And then he explains why he doesn't use magic, and that's this bit.
I just wanted to be happy.
They got pills for that now. Whew. Water everywhere.
You don't know everything. You don't have the magic in your blood. You don't have it on your skin every day of your life.
No. But I used it once, a long time ago, just once. There were two men. They're going out on a boat, and I needed to hear what they said. So I hid an empty bottle on board. And when they came back, I took the bottle, and I poured the conversation out. And I had what I needed. But they weren't alone on the boat. There was a girl. So when the cops came after him, they figured the girl had ratted. Cops got them both. But before they did, one of them had time to take her back out on that boat, strangle her, and throw her body into the bay. And now, the man in the bottle has come back.
So, of course, if you're paying any attention at all, you know who the guy in the bottle was, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. So we know where this is going. So Lovecraft leaves now that he knows what's going on. He goes back to the brothel, and he finds the owner who's getting ready to leave town, and he says, where is Julian Sands? He's like, where? I'm going to call him Warlock, because that's what everybody knows about it. So where's Warlock? I should have been calling him from the beginning. So he says, where's Warlock? And, she doesn't want to tell him. And he's like, look, I know why you're running. I understand he's dangerous. I want to take care of him as much as you want him taken care of. Just tell me where he is.
Which is funny because the Julian Sands character is a lot like the little guy all dressed in white in was it something?
Yeah, in the Cast Deadly Spell.
Yeah, he's very. They took a similar character.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Is this is all the same basic ingredients, but a different movie. So the brothel owner says he's at the rally, and he's like, the rally? He's like, why would he go there? They hate magic there. But he's like, all right, I'll go there. So he goes, and he sees the rally, and it's a bunch of people that are there. The stake's on fire, and they're like, yeah, burn the witch, burn the witch. Typical what you would expect of a nutso rally type of thing. So then we see behind the stage, down the stairs, we see Warlock. We see Warlock and the senator, and Warlock is being handed a case full of money by the senator. And so Lovecraft comes down, and then we kind of get the big reveal on what's going on, which is this.
Evening, Lovecraft. Glad you could make it.
How much is in there?
Oh, not so much in the grand scheme of things.
Expediting pays pretty good.
So does discretion.
You had Gottlieb killed. You thought he was the one working the Badger game.
I'm afraid I went off a little half-cocked.
And the girl.
Loose ends, Phil. You know how I am about loose ends.
And whose idea was it to set up Kropotkin?
Mine. The senator wanted to use Kim, but I convinced him that the frame would be a better fit using The witch.
Kim is Penelope Ann Miller.
This guy's gonna blackmail you, and now you're acting like long-lost brothers.
Politics makes strange bedfellows, I guess.
But he's a practitioner.
So?
It was all a show. The hearings, the press coverage, attacking magic. You could care less about protecting the people.
Spend some time in Congress, Phil. You get up to here with the people. Listening to their petty complaints, their demands, their constant, inane whining about one thing after the next thing after the next thing after the next thing. Just because they vote for you, they think you owe them something.
But why go after magic?
Who am I supposed to go after? Big business? You need something a little different, a little outside. Let me tell you something about the people, Phil. You lock any 10 of them in a room, they may not elect a leader, but I guarantee they'll pick someone to hate.
Right. So now we have the whole reveal of what's going on. So Crockett, basically, the senator calls in people who take not only Lovecraft prisoner, but also Warlock. And Warlock gets very pissed off and spits on the senator. And when he spits on him, it becomes like a lizard that kind of like crawls into his clothes and disappears. So, of course, we know that means something. The senator doesn't seem to really notice it, knows he spit on him, but doesn't see what happens. And Lovecraft, of course, immediately realizes something's going on. So they drag them out to watch the burning of the witch. And again, this is something where this is deliberate, but I think this is supposed to be a subtle thing that you're supposed to notice if you're paying attention. The witch, who up till now has been dressed like a woman in the 50s with a very nice kind of dress suit and, made up and has a hat on and has like straightened hair that's back in a bun. But when they take her out of the prisoner van, she's dressed in what looks like tribal clothing and she's got her natural hair and she's not made up. Which I'm like, that's interesting because she looks very different. This is almost like now we're doing a racial thing too. The appearance is so different that, it's obviously not accidental. Yeah. But again, the movie doesn't really, I guess it just expects you to notice it.
Unless they specifically dressed her up so that the crowd could see Burn exactly what they wanted.
That could be. That's very possible. That's what I'm saying is she looks so different that you notice it, but I don't know that most people would really notice it. But anyway, they take her out. And they get ready to burn her, at which point the senator starts making a speech, and then he starts having some kind of convulsion. He spits up a giant frog, and Lovecraft says, okay, what'd you do to him? And Warlock says, well, hey, man, nobody double-crosses me. At which point the senator kind of collapses, and his back rips open, and out of his back, he emerges, a second him. But this one looks like Lou Reed. Long hair, all in black, starts berating the crowd, calling them assholes and hypocrites, and you just want to see somebody burn. And then the other senator, the fake senator, he's also there. So now there's two of them, but it's his evil self has been revealed. Which at first I thought the old one died, and this one was his like inner self coming out. But no, there's actually two of them now. And the Lou Reed one is ranting and raving, and the other one's trying to convince people that it's not him. And everybody's like, wait, you're using magic too. And so they both get arrested for some reason. They get dragged off. Lovecraft frees the witch. Warlock makes his escape. And, of course, we now know Lovecraft tells the witch, well, the witch is the one who killed the girl, right? Because I used magic, whatever. So he goes to find him. And when he catches up to Warlock, Warlock's like, look. He's at the beach house and he comes in. He's like, I want you to join my organization. He's like, I know you're a better magic user than you think you are. And you've just sworn it off, which is stupid. Join me and we can be a powerful, it's like the Emperor, join me, the whole thing. So, and of course, Lovecraft says no. And Warlock says, then I'm going to summon, I'm going to reverse time. And instead of Gottlieb being rough with the character who was faking it for the scam, I'm going to replace her with Pam and have her die for real. And the only way you can stop me is if you use magic. So, of course, he starts to, he reverses time. You see the senators there. He's drowning Penelope Ann Miller. And Lovecraft starts to hold up because earlier, you keep seeing that he's wearing this bracelet. So he holds up his arm and the bracelet starts to spin, at which point it cuts to outside. You see the witch make a, I don't know, witch gesture or whatever. And the Lovecraft kind of opens his mouth and a raven flies out of it, rips Julian Sands' evil eye out. I didn't mention he has an evil eye. It's like different colored. Rips his evil eye out, at which point Julian Sands starts screaming, stumbles outside of the house. And this is a beach house, so they're over the water. Lovecraft comes outside and kicks him into the water. And for some reason, he drowns. I guess he can't swim and dies. And then Lovecraft kind of goes out. He goes outside. He rescues Pam. She doesn't drown. Goes outside, and the witch is like, I couldn't let you use magic. I know why you didn't use it, so I used it for you. I used the raven. It was there anyway, so why not just use it? And that way you don't have to actually use magic, and you can, not have to use it. So then we cut to train station, and Pam is there, and she's taken the necklace off, so she's just now her normal self. And she says, you know what? I've figured out that Hollywood isn't for me. I'm going to go get a new start somewhere else. She says, I never used my real name in this town, so I can use my real name somewhere else, and no one will ever know me. And Lovecraft kisses her, and she goes off. And then we cut to him on the roof, and we get our little bit of ending narration, which is this.
Kim Hudson disappeared. But since she never really existed, I figured the score was even. It didn't matter anyway. Pretty soon another girl would be stepping off the Highland bus, wishing herself into a D-cup and her big break. Crockett, too. He's the kind of guy who says he hates magic and then goes home and levitates chicks in the basement. Last I heard, he was sharing a cell with himself in San Quentin. And so it goes. There was usually a 1-to-1 ratio between dreams and disappointments, and no amount of magic could change that. It's always going to be there if someone wants to believe in it. And let's face it, everybody's got to believe in something.
And the movie ends and we get credits, and that's the movie. So it is what you read. It's a redoing of Cast of Every Spell.
Interesting that they felt the need to do that, though.
Yeah, I don't know. Because this is from when HBO was a completely different thing, when it was its own channel and it was trying to make its own stuff. And so it's from a different time when this kind of thing happened. So I don't know why either, because I agree. I don't.
Maybe they own the property, so they were like, well, let's just do it again.
That's
with
possible.
Dennis Hopper.
Yeah, I guess it could be, because it's not necessary. But at the same time, it's not a bad movie. It's a very fun movie. It's a very watchable movie. It is different enough from Cast a Deadly Spell that I don't care. Yeah. Because it isn't. No, it didn't just replicate it.
Totally see that. It sounds different. The description is different. The way that the main character handles himself is different. Like I can accept that it's almost like the Ghost in the Shells. It's like you have the Ghost in the Shell show and the Ghost in the Shell movie.
Yeah.
They're both good, but they're independent of each other.
Right.
And it's like, this is kind of like that. It's like an alternate universe version of the same movie.
Sure. Yeah.
So yeah, that's interesting. I might have to watch that just because now I love the other version, the Fred Ward one.
Well, that's the thing, is there's not a lot of movies like this. So that's the other reason where I'm like, I really don't care, because there aren't a lot of magic noir films. We don't get them very often, so I'll take whatever ones I can get,
No, and honestly, that's one of the things I loved about the Keanu Reeves Constantine, which is that it was essentially trying really hard to be that kind of like supernatural noir.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And I know that it wasn't Constantine from the comics, but I still really enjoy it.
No, but it's still a good movie. Yeah, it's still a good movie. Yeah. So, like I said, I liked it. It's. If you just don't go in expecting it to be, again, number one, it's not a sequel, which people just can't seem to wrap their heads around. I keep seeing people saying it's a sequel. It's not a sequel. And as long as you're not going to make a quality comparison, because number one, I don't think that's even fair.
Well, let's see. Is it better or worse
than Cast a Deadly Spell?
Yeah.
Oh no, it's worse. That's why I was saying Cast a Deadly Spell is Predator, and this is Predator 2.
So it did have less of a budget in that respect.
Yeah, it felt like it had less of a budget. I think the humor worked better in Cast a Deadly Spell. It's hard to quantify it. Like, there's not a single thing about it, but it is the difference between the two Predators, right? The first Predator clearly has a really good director in charge of it. It's got a great budget. It looks great. Like, it's filmed so well. It's got the
Yeah.
music. It's got everything. And then Predator 2, it never feels as real as Predator. You know what I mean? It's clearly sets in many cases. They're not in the jungle. It's that type of difference. It's not really whether one is
even though
good.
they have the disc of death and they have this and they have that,
Yes.
but yeah, it's
Yes.
still
Right.
it's still a schlocky movie.
Yeah, that's why like Julian Sands I like better in this than the other guy, because it's Julian Sands and he's good, right? So there's things that I think work better, and there are things that overall I think work worse. So I don't know that you necessarily do a 1-to-1 comparison, but that's where I was saying is if you were to tell somebody, well, which one should I watch first, Predator or Predator 2? I will always say Predator.
Oh, Predator. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Well, that's this. If somebody said, well, which of these should I watch first? Watch Cast a Deadly Spell. Then watch Witch Hunt. It's a different type of movie. It's not quite as tight in terms of its production, but it's still fun.
No, listen. You watch Predator and you watch it. Like you sit and you watch it. It's a great movie. Then a couple days later, have a few drinks and watch Predator 2 with friends.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. That's the two. That's what these two movies are. If you want a comparison, that's it.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say about it.
Honestly,
Perfectly
no.
fine.
Really, the way it should work is you should watch Predator, then you watch Aliens, then you watch Predator 2. Actually, no. I guess you watch Terminator because you got to see Bill Paxton.
Sure.
In
Paxtology. Yeah, the Paxtology. Yeah. So, yeah. So fun movie. So I would say, yeah, you should watch it. You'd probably like it. But again, most of the reviews keep comparing it to the other one. I'm like, yeah, of course.
I vaguely remember this, and I vaguely thinking that it was like a sequel.
I remember it being on too, but I never watched it.
And I was wondering why they replaced Fred Ward with Dennis Hopper.
Well, they sort of didn't.
I like Fred Ward more.
and that's what I'm saying is Danny Glover is great, but he's not Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh,
right?
absolutely
I mean,
not. No.
This is
not even remotely. Yeah.
And that is the best comparison I can give you for these two movies. Is there's no reason not to watch both, but you're going to understand that one feels like a better made movie, and the other one feels like a HBO TV movie with that type of budget and that type of approach. So I don't know what the necessity was. Maybe it was just that somebody owned the rights, but I don't mind that it was redone this way. It's an interesting alternate way to do the story. It's not bad. It's not better, but it's different, and it's not terrible. So, and I like Dennis Hopper, and I like him in this role, and I like Julian Sands. And even though, he's more of a minor character, but he pops up throughout the movie. They knew enough to keep Julian Sands coming, unlike Debbie Mazar. They really fucked up there. But with Julian Sands, they knew enough to sprinkle him through it. Penelope Ann Miller is always solid. I like her. She's fun in this. She gets some great lines like, I got fucked in the producer's office, which that alone makes it worth watching. The thing where they put the guy in the lunchbox, stuff like that. And Shakespeare. Oh, they show Shakespeare at the very end in the rally, and they're like, okay, we want to write a movie about this, so get to writing. And he's just like, oh, Jesus. And he's just writing because it's just garbage writing for producers in Hollywood, it's its own joke, which is fine. So there's stuff like that, and that's what makes it worth watching. But, yeah, I don't think it's fair to compare it. Even though, yes, they're the same material, it's a different type of movie. But I thought it was good. So, yeah, you would probably have a good time with it. And I would tell people if you were put off by reviews that say, it's a shitty sequel. No, number one, it's not a sequel. And number two, it's not shitty. It's just
the fact that it's not a sequel is what makes it really weird. Like, it's just...
Oh, yeah. Its existence is strange.
I mean, what is the time frame years-wise between them? Because it doesn't even feel like it's that long, is it?
No, I think it was like 3 years maybe. Cast a Deadly Spell was from, I could be wrong about that. Let me look it up. The year is 91, 3 years later. Also, by the way, it shows it as an HBO movie, but the other one is described as an HBO TV movie. So I don't know. Yeah. See, and even and here's something even stupider. Now on Cast a Deadly Spell, the trivia says that that HBO produced a sequel, but that's not true. And even in this, they say Dennis Hopper plays the Lovecraft character. Other characters that reappear from this film, but many have different backstories. Well, then it's not. What are you talking about? It's not a sequel anymore.
It's not a sequel,
right? So that's what I'm saying. It's confusing. It doesn't make sense. The fact that, number one, it's confusing whether it's a sequel or not, which it's not, and that it doesn't make sense that they would reinterpret this so soon after it. It's not like it's 20 years later. So I agree.
Exactly.
It makes no sense. But nonetheless, it exists.
But
and
man,
it's a
I would
fun watch.
totally take a sequel today.
Oh sure, I'd love that.
I would do a mini series. I love the world that they created for that.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, this is like it's like Kolchak. I mean, it's the same ideas. Do Kolchak with magic.
Except magic is everywhere.
Right.
So it is
so
just
why
what
not?
it is.
That would be really fun. By the way, the movie in its entirety is up right now in at least 2 YouTube channels full. So you can go watch. Sorry, there's 3. There's a third one, but I see 2 of them. And let me just click on one and just make sure it's not a bait and switch thing. No, it's there. It's not as great a quality as I watched it because I watched it on Amazon. I want to say I don't remember now, but whatever streaming service I watched it on, it was good quality. So it's not as good a quality, but you know what? Watch this first and then decide whether you want to go find it or whatever anywhere else. Was it on Amazon? I don't remember now. Anyway, wherever. You can see it for free. So anybody who's curious, you can go watch it for free. Let me see. Does it say? God, IMDb is so fucking bad now. Garbage site. So sorry, I don't remember where I watched it. But you can watch it on YouTube, and it's not the worst quality in the world. So on that note, whether you choose to I mean, if you want to watch Star Trek Into Darkness, go for it. I'm not going to tell you not to. So you can watch it if you're curious.
You and I differ. You say that you think it should be kept off the list. I definitely think you should watch it at least once.
Well, there you go. So,
but I say that saying it's not a good movie, but there's cool stuff in there to take with you.
Well, I will say the same about Liquid Sky, which is probably not going to be on many people's list, but it's certainly on mine. So in that way, I understand what you're saying, and I concur. So Star Trek Into Darkness and Liquid Sky are almost a good double feature in that I don't know how many people will want to rewatch those.
If Cumberbatch had shown up on screen and had done like a beatbox version of Khan,
well, then it would be a classic. Then it would be a classic. I agree. No, that would make me forgive all the other flaws. It truly would. So you have a wide array of things from this week's show to go out and experience in whatever fashion you'd like to. So have a wonderful weekend, and we will be back here to jabber about more weird shit next week. Visit OzoneNightmare.com to subscribe to new episodes, browse through our back catalog, or to find links to support the show. Follow @OzoneNightmare on Twitter for the latest episode postings and other show information. If 280 characters just isn't enough, you can always email us, theozonenightmare@gmail.com. The opening theme for the show is provided by Heartbeat Hero. The closing theme is provided by Ogre. Please visit and support these artists using the links in the show notes for each episode.